You know what time it is? It is your boy Genesis. I am back. It is currently 6:53 p.m. and today's date is the 9th of December 2024. Yes, y'all. I am back. What is going on? What is going on? Okay, this is going to be a quick one. I always say it's going to be a quick one, but then it's not a quick one, yeah. Thank you for tuning in one more time. All right. With that being said, this is going to be a quick one. Yeah. Okay, so how is your day going? How are you doing? What is going on? Did you have a good day? Are you getting ready for dinner? Are you getting ready to enjoy your cozy evening? It is cold outside. It's cold outside. It's cold outside, people. It is cold outside. So, with that being said, how are you doing? I like my mic now. Like I can hear what I'm saying. It's clear, Now I feel like I didn't waste my money on buying this mic, but thank God. Thank God. All right. Okay. Check this out. So, of course, respect is back in the United States. The legend, the 45th, the Don is back. And guess what? He's back with the handshake. The one he did with France president. Check this out. Of course, what is her name? I need to go find her name. Judge Janine. Judge Janine started this show. And I've always said, I respect Judge Janine. I mean, come on. She's a respected person. Check this out.
The boss is back, and all it took was one handshake.
Oh, God. Look at that handshake, people. Of course, Judge Jennings, so beautiful. Look at her. Check this out. The handshake is called respect. Not respect. Respect. Put some respect on my name. That's what that is. Back on top, everybody.
Okay. Donald Trump giving a firm but powerful handshake to French President Emmanuel Macron while attending the Notre Dame Cathedral reopening in Paris. World leader after world leader were lining up to greet the president-elect on his first trip since the election. Trump meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky and Prince William. Even the First Lady was charmed, Dr. Jill Biden appearing very friendly with President-elect Trump during the ceremony, despite her long history of making nasty remarks about him. As for why her husband Joe Biden wasn't there, well, it seems like the old man is checked out. A Democrat close to senior law.
Oh, my God. These people are trolling Joe, man. They're trolling Joe way too much. Check this out, man.
Despite her long history of making nasty remarks about him. As for why her husband Joe Biden wasn't there, well, it seems like the old man is checked out. A Democrat close to senior lawmakers telling Politico, quote, in conversations that I'm having, they don't even mention the president. It's kind of sad. It feels like Trump is president already. All right, Jesse, I'm going to start with you.
I mean, this guy, he's been on another level. He's been commanding respect. Respect, you have to earn it. And I think just looking back and forth all through from 2016 to 2021, Trump commanded respect. And that's what he's getting in return right now. Nobody wants to smoke with him. So,
what's with the handshake? Is it a power move?
Oh, it's a power move, all right, Judge.
What is it? What is
I've
it
been
mean?
the victim of the power move. When he grabs you, and he pulls you in all of a sudden if you don't realize it. It's symbolic because it shows he's in control, and America is in control. I mean, you look at France, they're throwing up tariffs against California wine. They're not really paying their fair share of NATO. We protect them. They're suing the bejesus out of Google. It's time for America to assert a little bit of power, and it's fun to watch. I liked what he said about Prince William. He goes, he's better looking in person. Now, as someone who's been the victim of that compliment many times, it's obviously in the royal family's head now. People say that, Jesse, you look so skinny in person. Thank you? What do I look like on television? I hate when people say that, so maybe Trump had a reason for saying that. Maybe he's going to deport his brother, too. It's good that the president is demanding respect, because Biden didn't demand respect. Remember, Biden's getting lost in jungles. He's falling asleep. He's pardoning his son. They rolled out the red carpet for a sitting president. And he might as well be the sitting president because he's dictating trade and immigration terms. He's taking meetings with CEOs and world leaders. This guy is running things, and he's not even there yet. I heard he wanted to light the White House Christmas tree, Dana.
All right, I'll go to Dana with that. You know, Dana, Biden has 42 days left, and they're pushing him to do all kinds of things like executive orders to stop Trump, give more money to Ukraine. Now we hear the FDA is going to make a move real fast to get rid of the...
Shout out to Leon,
color,
Liam Miller. Welcome to the live show.
It's got some kind of pesticide or something in it. Should Biden help his party, or do you think he's angry and he ought to just say, well, you've been blaming me for the loss, to hell with you?
I think it's fascinating that basically it's Jesus take the wheel. There is nobody in charge. And don't take it from us. Look at all of the blind quotes from Democrats quoted all throughout the media today saying, what is he doing? He's just frittering away the last 6 weeks. Yes, they're doing, one of the things they're doing that's really bad is they're shoveling out as much of that green energy project stuff as they can. And Jesse, you could do a little investigation as to who got rich out of that, because that is a huge problem. It is incredible.
She said, Jesse, you could do some little investigation about who got rich out of that. Jesse said, They are so cool up here, bro.
To see how Biden ran in 2020 saying, world leaders love me, and they mock Trump behind his back. To world leaders saying, we don't even want to talk about Joe Biden. All we want to do is meet with President Trump. But they also are doing this for their own benefit, okay? Because they know there's a new sheriff in town, but in their own countries, this strain of populism and frustration with migration,
godly. What is going on here? Is it like he doesn't know where it's going? Look.
Their own benefit, okay? Because they know there's a new sheriff in town, but in their own countries, this strain of populism and frustration with migration, especially in Western Europe, is leading governments to be toppled, and they realize that, so they're trying to get on board.
She's so right about that. I mean, a lot of these leaders obviously are, I mean, they realize that Trump has the power, but they also, they understand that it's probably a good thing for them in their own country. But what about Jill and Trump? So Jill, she's smiling
Trump
at him.
is
She and her
sweeping
husband called
everybody
him
off their
Hitler
feet,
forever,
including
and
Jill
how horrible
Biden.
he was.
Hey.
And then Donald Trump is such a genius. He turns around and he basically says, with his new cologne, even your enemies can't resist. So he turns it into a commercial.
Right. I'm surprised he didn't say, show in the picture, have him on one of the Trump watches at the same time. But they hit it off. They seem to be charmed, and they contrasted that with the Vice President Kamala Harris, Vice President for now, but she's invisible. They seem to be an icy stare between them, and they never got along. And I guess she still holds some resentment for the fact that everybody stabbed her husband in the back, and then she filled the void. But I'm struck by a couple of things. Number one, it's not that Trump was winning and it looks like he's going to win. He's won, so they know he's coming, and they know exactly what to expect. And I think two things are happening. Number one, They know what to expect. And number two is they were so dismissive in the beginning. Remember John Kerry in France saying, don't worry, we're going to impeach him anyway. It wasn't really an election. Vladimir Putin got him the win. So the whole world was like, who is this guy? America doesn't like him. They don't accept him. There's controversy with his victory. Now that he's left and sees who replaced him, they're saying, I miss the other guy. And a lot of his ideas were right about NATO paying the fair share, about trying to get the Abrahams going in the Middle East. And I thought it was very candid of him to say, with Macron in his version of the Oval Office, the world's a mess right now. He's like, your government collapsed. Germany's a mess. Look at the Middle East. Bashar Assad's hanging out in Moscow with Edward Snowden. And now who's running that country? So all hell's breaking loose.
Trump, look, this guy right here is just on another level, guys. Look at him. It's like, you ain't going to shake me into oblivion. Like, check this out.
Look at the Middle East. Bashar Assad's hanging out in Moscow with Edward Snowden, and now who's running that country? So all hell's breaking loose. And by the way, Iran's never been more vulnerable. So when Trump takes over, Trump is in an interesting spot now. He's got it's almost like preseason. You get to plan exactly what you're going to do when you take over. So I'm finding it fascinating. And the other thing is I love is Trump's demeanor. He looks so confident but not cocky. He looks in control, taking it all in.
Yo, adults are back in the White House by January 20. The grown-ups responsible with a good head on their shoulders, they're back. They're back. Yeah, they're definitely back in the White House. There's no conversation about that. They're definitely back in the White House. Shout out to the legendary, the Don, the 45th, now the 47th president-elect. Take a look at the handshake one more time, man.
To do when you take over. So I'm finding it fascinating. And the other thing is I love is Trump's demeanor. He looks so confident but not cocky. He looks in control, taking it all in. This week, welcome Jeff Bezos to Mar-a-Lago. Everyone's coming to him. Things are coming around. They want him seeing fixing.
Everybody wants to kiss the ring. These people were the same ones saying, I think Kamala is a good choice. Trump ain't all that. He's not really good with the economy. The economy isn't going to thrive with him. Now everybody's kissing the ring, going all the way to Mar-a-Lago, trying to book an appointment. He's not even the president yet. Almighty, whatever says, who of course we know what you're talking about. Who the F cares about handshakes? Of the world. The world cares about handshake, Brody. Handshake shows how macho you are, my bro. Check this out.
Government collapse. Germany's a mess. Look at the Middle East. Bashar Assad's hanging out in Moscow with Edward Snowden.
It means you're strong. You can hold. Macron, let's go check how old Macron is. Macron age. So Macron is 46 years old.
And now
Trump
who's running that
is.
country?
Macron is 46 years old. Trump is 78 years old. So if you step up to a 46 years old guy and you show weakness, he's going to take your weakness exactly as it is. Your age, you are old and can shake and can move. But take a look at this 78 years old guy shaking a 46 years old guy. Check it out.
Assad's hanging out in Moscow with Edward Snowden. And now who's running that country? So all hell's breaking loose. And by the way,
Macron is trying hard to because everybody knows in this type of case, Joe ain't shaking hands like this. Because come on, man. Joe falling off. They're trying to show him where to go. He's going to another corner. They're like, no, sir, Mr. President. No, this way, sir, Mr. President. But take a look at this macho right here.
Iran's never been more vulnerable. So when Trump takes over, Trump is in an interesting spot now. He's got it's almost like
it shows
preseason.
strength.
You get to plan exactly what you're going to do when you take over. So I'm finding it fascinating. And the other thing is I love is Trump's demeanor. He looks so confident but not cocky.
Look at that. That's a 78 years old guy shaking a 46 years old guy with that much power. Meaning you ain't gonna play around. Don't even bother.
Trump's
Look at that. Oh, man. I'm so happy this is the president of the United States.
He looks in control, taking it all in. This week, welcome Jeff Bezos to Mar-a-Lago. Everyone's coming to him. Things are coming around. They want him seeing fixing things.
Yeah, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Trudeau comes running from Canada. But, we're seeing now what a real president does in terms of the time and the energy. I mean, our president goes to a G7 or a summit of some sort. He can't even show up for dinner. He's so tired. This is good. This is the beginning where we all have to get ourselves exercise to keep up.
Can I talk?
Yeah.
So, see,
do you agree with that, or you think Joe Biden was really on top of his game?
I think this is what happens when you have a new president come in from this standpoint. For the world to see Joe Biden and President Trump have that kind of interaction,
it's good.
When the world knows the kinds of things that were said about one another by each of them, for the world to even see when Donald Trump succeeded Barack Obama with the exchanges that the two of them had, and that we have this peaceful exchange of power, I think it's just a continuation from the day when Joe Biden and Donald Trump met in the Oval Office, and it was as peaceful and as compelling a meeting as one would want in their presidents, too. I'm rooting, I hope every American is rooting for President Trump at this very moment, and will be able to continue rooting for him. We have a messy world. I would argue that Joe Biden, as we sit here today from 4 years ago, Ukraine is stronger, Russia is weaker, Iran is weaker because
Ukraine is stronger?
Than 4 years ago, absolutely. Than 2 years ago before they were invaded. The day they were invaded, I recall coming on this show and we thought that they would fall within 2 weeks. This is not a statement about rooting for or against anyone. I'm only saying President Trump, the world views him in a certain way. And the world views him and respects him in ways, which I think your question was trying to get at, Judge, in ways that they didn't with President Biden. Having said that, I'm rooting for him because I want the country to do well. I don't think he undermined President Biden by being in Paris. I think Mrs. Biden being there and their daughter being there was a wonderful thing. And I'm glad to hear that Prince William's better looking in person than he is there. I've had a few say that as well, Jesse. No. But the bottom line is we need allies as we try to counter North Korea and Iran and Russia and China. And there's no one that knows it better than President Trump. And I'm rooting for him in that way.
Exactly. This is what I like about a rational man. Even though you don't agree with everything he's saying, but you can say that when it comes to strength, there's nobody close. Nobody's close to this guy. He shows power. He shows strength. Just from the handshake, this ain't no joke. We ain't playing around. That's what that means. Now, on the other hand, let me show you a contrast. We're gonna contrast Joe. Joe was in Angola. We're gonna go to Joe in Angola, and then y'all are gonna see what I'm talking about. All right, Joe in Angola. Like literally. Check this out. This is the current president in Angola. Was in Angola like last week. Check this out. This is
pop
Joe
up this
right
live image right here as
Joe
we
right
have
here.
been over in Angola. We've seen the trip from President Biden. He is there meeting with some of the officials in that location. He spoke maybe about 30 minutes ago and broke down a little bit more about the investments that were being made in that area. And right now he is taking part in a meeting here with, again, some of the other officials in that location. Not sure. It looks like there might be audio, so let's pop it up to see if we can hear anything.
Aiming at aligning this project with national priorities and other bilateral and regional commitments. In closing, allow me to reiterate Tanzania's commitment to regional integration and shared prosperity. We note the progress made on the development of the Lobito Corridor and commend the visionary leadership that has brought this initiative to life.
I mean, dear
And it is
Lord.
through such partnerships and innovations that Africa's Agenda 2063 will be realized. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'd like to turn it over.
All right, so the audio not too great there, but you can see President Biden is meeting with those officials over in Angola, again, talking about economic investments and things of that nature. So we do have those live images. And if he does hold another news conference here, as he's done just a few times, we'll make sure to bring that to you right here on Live Now from Fox. Do have to head to our final 2-minute commercial break at 8:41 on the East Coast and 5:41 on the West Coast. We do have much more live coverage coming up. That includes a look.
So there goes the President of the United States sleeping on the world stage. Literally sleeping on the world stage. And this is supposed to show what? Strength? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think so. There's a lot, like they had to put him on, they had to show him where to go. I need to get that video. They had to literally show him how to, like, position this guy, where to go. Sir, this is where to go, sir. Sir, Mr. President, sir. You go this way, sir. And he's supposed to be the President of the United States. But that's what we got, guys. That's what we got. That's what we got. This is not strength on the world stage. It's not even close to strength on the world stage. So, you know, it is what it is. It is. I wish I could get that video. This guy they had to show him where to go. Come on. But when Trump shakes somebody's hands and shakes it firmly, people say, well, the handshake don't mean nothing. Yes, it does mean something. So if the handshake don't mean anything, so that means Joe sleeping on the world stage don't mean anything. He actually does. Shows weakness and one shows strength. To get in line and understand how this
John, you
works.
have some new details about specific lines that you can quote from this 2-page handwritten document that was found on Luigi Mangioni's person. What was he writing about?
Well, he was railing against the healthcare industry.
The boss is back, and all it took was one handshake.
John, you have some new details about specific lines that you can quote from this 2-page handwritten document that was found on Luigi Mangioni's person. What was he writing about?
This right here is concerning the guy who took down the United Healthcare CEO. And he's been found, guys. His name is Luigi, just like Mario. The guy, the game, Mario and Luigi, two brothers. So his name is Luigi, and here goes Luigi's story.
Well, he was railing against the healthcare industry, which of course fits into the scenario here. He talks about how these parasites had it coming. He starts off basically saying, I don't want to cause any trauma, but it had to be done. So a second page really kind of goes into problems with the health industry. He raises the question, you know, why do we have the most expensive healthcare in the world, but we're 42, rated 42 in life expectancy around the world? I can't vet his facts or findings there, but it was talking about the healthcare industry and the need for violence. I mean, especially when you talk about, you know, the opening.
His name is Luigi. Let's go look it up. Luigi Mangioni. Mangioni. Mangione. What, Italian? Does he have Instagram? But by now they probably took all his name, probably his pages and all that stuff down. So now we can't even see. Look at this dude. So here is Luigi Mangione. We're gonna check on Google right here. Luigi. He looks like him. Like, it looks so much like him. This is Luigi Mangione. Does look like him though. Check this out. I mean, that looks like him. Like, look at his smile. Luigi, bro. They don't got him. They got Luigi, Brody. They got Luigi. Okay, Luigi. Luigi's been working out. Luigi's been working out. Luigi been working out, y'all. Hey. Yeah, this is the guy. Yeah, Luigi been working out. Probably been working out for this day. But yeah. That's Luigi. How old is he though? Here's his driver's license. Whoa. Luigi, Brody. Wow, think about it. Like, I mean, I don't know what happened, man. He needs to come tell his story, because why did you do it, bro? Like, you need to come tell your story. Some people are saying he's a hero, and that's just wild. Some people are saying he's a hero. It's like, how is he a hero? But, I mean, everybody is a hero these days. With everybody in this world, in social media world, everybody's a hero, guys. But yeah, there goes Luigi. There goes Luigi. Somebody said it looks like a mask. So what? Somebody made a face mask for this guy? I mean, I don't get it. Such an innocent boy. When they grow up, then you choose your path. When you're young, you're so innocent. Then you grow up, you choose a path. It's like, bro, why you gotta choose that path? But that's the path they chose. Let's go back to the updates.
John, you have some new details about specific lines that you can quote from this 2-page handwritten document that was found on Luigi Mangione's person. What was he writing about?
Well, he was railing against the healthcare industry, which of course fits into the scenario here. He talks about how these parasites had it coming. He starts off basically saying, I don't want to cause any trauma, but it had to be done. So a second page really kind of goes into problems with the health industry. He raises the question, why do we have the most expensive healthcare in the world, but we're 42, rated 42 in life expectancy around the world? I can't vet his facts or findings there, but it was talking about the healthcare industry and the need for violence. I mean, especially when you talk about, the opening, which is that it had to be done. These parasites, had it coming. That does kind of fit in what they're talking about. What do we know about this individual? Mr. Mangione is an engineer. He grew up in Towson, Maryland. He's 26 years old. He graduated UPenn in 2020 and then went on to a master's program where he got that master's degree in engineering. And he has addresses, as Shimon said, in Towson, where he grew up, in Philadelphia, where he went to school, in Honolulu, which we're still looking into. But he is strongly believed to be the suspect in this case.
It's incredibly interesting. And it also speaks to the fact that he just had, Josh Campbell, you're with us now, so much on his person, according to police, from a suppressor to, they're saying it's the fake ID they believe that he used at the hostel, the New Jersey fake ID, when he was in New York, and then this manifesto talking about why he did this. That tells you a lot about his maybe expectation that ultimately this was all going to catch up with him, even as he tried to get away.
Yeah, you're spot on. And, sometimes these major incidents that start with a bang end with a whimper. We didn't see a dramatic, police takedown. What we saw is someone eating at a McDonald's who then had the police called on him and apparently taken into custody without incident. And, it's so interesting. John and I have been covering this. There was this consensus in looking at that initial surveillance video from outside that hotel that police weren't dealing with Carlos the Jackal here. I mean, you look at everything from his stance in holding that gun to the type of gun itself, to the mistakes that he had made, apparently leaving behind a water bottle and a burner phone. And so this was a sophisticated job in the sense that it appeared to be planned and then executed. And then he was able to successfully flee and, escape arrest for several days. But when you look at all of that material with him on his person, whenever he is actually taken into custody, someone who had the wherewithal to plan all of this and then to escape several law enforcement agencies would have had to have known that having all of that on his person would implicate him in this crime. As you mentioned, you have the fake ID, an ID that was matching the fake.
But question, how did he know that the guy was going to be there in New York? How? And how did he know it was going to be outside at that time? How?
ID he used to check into that hostel. You have the mask that he had that was on these images that have been seen now around the world, and specifically the firearm itself. All of those items could have been ditched along the way as he was trying to escape, but he had them on his person. Of course, we can get into the firearms forensics if you'd like to see how that would actually play a key role here. But when you look finally at the manifesto, that you have to raise the question: is this someone who expected to be caught and didn't mind being caught eventually, particularly if he is someone who was railing against the industry in which this murder victim had worked, to have all that material on you and then to have essentially the motive, laying out the motive in these documents for police to find. Everyone, any good attorney will tell you that the best way to escape any type of serious charge such as murder is to create reasonable doubt, to have no evidence on your person, to try to fight every accusation that comes your way. That much harder when you have all of that with you as you're taken into custody.
Yeah, certainly an intriguing point why he would have that kind of note on him. It speaks to some form of premeditation, at least. Josh Campbell, thank you for that. We also have with us Michael Alcazar, a retired NYPD detective. And on Friday, you talked about how critical DNA evidence would be not necessarily in identifying a suspect, but tying them to the crime. And in hearing about some of these details, specifically about the water bottle that was left behind and a partial fingerprint that was on that water bottle, I'm curious how significant a piece of evidence would that be in a future prosecution?
Yeah, this is absolutely huge that we have this suspect and then we process the crime scene, as best to the ability of the NYPD. We got DNA, we got fingerprints. We have the ammunition. So now hopefully we can link all that to this suspect. We were going to get DNA from him, get fingerprints off of him. The weapon, like the other person mentioned before, we can link it to the bullets because usually the barrel will have rifling. I know this is a ghost gun. Hopefully it still produces the same marks on the ammunition. So crime scene processing, the images that we put out, the Crime Stoppers tips, that's what helped solve this crime and make this arrest.
And John Miller, back to you. We're talking about why does he have all of this potential evidence on him, so much of it, but I guess there's also a question of what was the intent of the letter. In some crimes, you have people who send in their manifesto with the expectation they may or may not get caught. Do you have an idea, perhaps, what the intent could be, looking at cases like that?
Brianna, that's a really important question, and here's why. You know, when you look at the note, I do apologize for any strife or trauma, but it had to be done. These parasites had it coming. This is a single homicide we're looking at. Parasites is in the plural. And the note itself, where he says, I acted alone, I'm self-funded, it suggests two potential things here. Number one, he was expecting to be caught somehow, somewhere, and wanted the note to say, I acted alone, this was just me, and here's the why. Or the other, even darker possibility, which is he intended to keep striking and at some point was going to release this note after he killed executives from other healthcare companies or other major corporations. We've looked at some of his other writings going back to the past on his social media and things he's posted, and he does rail against corporate America, against profiteering, against taking advantage of the consumer, and he does talk about how protest is ineffective and that violence is the next step that has to be taken. So a lot to kind of chew on there while they put together the charges, as Shimon said, and others get together the physical and forensic evidence that may tie him to this New York murder.
Josh Campbell, back to you, because Michael brought up something I found interesting. Obviously, in a lot of cases, forensic experts will look at a firearm and doing an analysis of the sort of grooves that are on the bullet, the impression that is left on a bullet, and it helps to tie, obviously, guns to certain incidents. I wonder how that might change, given that this is a ghost gun that officials believe was potentially printed by a 3D printer.
Well, so the ghost gun aspect would make it more difficult to try to tie it to past crimes. And we know that the bullet shell casings obviously recovered from the scene of the crime. That could be tested. The fact that we didn't hear of any matches to past crimes tells us that, this is something that he may have, procured maybe recently. Maybe he put it together himself. And maybe he's never used it before in the commission of a crime that was known to law enforcement. But it is still a critical piece of evidence because, as you mentioned, when you look at firearm testing, it's very much like a fingerprint. Whenever a projectile leaves the end of that gun, there are unique markings. You can see here, these are images of when I went inside the ATF lab to show this kind of testing. So they would take this gun into one of these facilities. They actually do a test to capture the bullet that is fired, but also the shell casing that gets ejected. And then they essentially take it under a microscope and actually look for those unique patterns. Whenever the shell casing makes contact with that gun, there are unique markings that law enforcement can look at. And what they're trying to do is see, is there a match? When you look at the shell casings found at the scene, you look at those bullets and you compare that with what was tested, all they're trying to do here is to match, was the gun found on this individual actually similar in nature to the characteristics of the rounds of ammunition left behind at the scene? And because of the unique nature of that testing, as I mentioned, somewhat like a fingerprint, that could be very strong evidence.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy, Genesis. Thank you. Now, what do you guys think about this? Luigi has been caught. Okay. Luigi has been caught. And now, moving on to Tulsi Gabbard. Okay. She's started her up and down with Congress to get her nomination pushed forward. And of course, everybody's now throwing it back for her. Like, things she said in the past, things she's done in the past. Check out CNN talk about Tulsi Gabbard.
Syria is being taken over by rebel and terrorist groups here in Washington. President-elect Trump's picks for key national security jobs are on Capitol Hill. meeting with the senators whose votes they will need to confirm them. I'm joined now by one of those senators, Republican Senator Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, who serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, what's your assessment right now of what's happening in Syria after the toppling of Bashar al-Assad and his fleeing to Russia? Is there any understanding of who's in charge of Syria, and how do you think the U.S. should be responding?
I think the U.S. right now certainly is and should be continuing to communicate with various leaders on the ground to help get to a point where we do know how to work with. And certainly the goal overall is to ensure that stability ensues there. Israel, our allies in the region, should take the lead. The U.S. should be supportive. I certainly don't think we need to be entering and getting involved directly, but I do think that this is something that we should be watching extremely closely, because the last thing we want, Jake, is to see Assad's chemical weapons, to see any of the terrorist groups that are there in any way get into a position where they could actually hurt America here in the homeland.
Former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Democratic Congresswoman from Hawaii, although now she's a Republican. She is Mr. Trump's pick to be the Director of National Intelligence. She was meeting with senators today. Back in 2017, she made a controversial and secret visit to Syria, where she met with Assad. After she came back, she came on this show, came on the lead to discuss that trip. Let me just roll some of what she told me back then.
The Syrian people recognize and they know that if President Assad is overthrown, then al-Qaeda or a group like al-Qaeda that has been killing Christians, killing people simply because of their religion or because they won't support their terror activities, they will take charge of all of Syria. This is the reality that the people of Syria are facing on the ground, and why they are pleading with us here in the United States to stop supporting these terrorist groups. Let the Syrian people themselves determine their future.
Congresswoman Gabbard at the time also expressed skepticism that it was Assad who actually gassed his own people, which I think is the U.S. government is fairly certain what happened. Are you hearing any concerns from other Republican senators about Congresswoman Gabbard serving as DNI?
Well, I certainly am aware of the discussions that you're talking about right now in terms of what she said back in 2017. But Congresswoman Gabbard is a decorated veteran. Has been a wonderful member of the military. President Trump has hired her for a very specific job. He's in the process of doing that. And she's actually raised questions with respect to the intelligence community, I think, that need to be asked, that need to be delivered upon. Also, Tulsi represents a broadening of the tent, if you will, bringing in people from a variety of backgrounds. President Trump won the election by broadening the tent. I'm pleased to see her do this, and I think she's going to move through the process. I think she'll make good progress. And at the end of the day, President Trump's policies are what's going to drive this administration, and Tulsi Gabbard should be a loyal member of his cabinet and follow those policies.
So no concerns at all, or you're hearing them, but those discussions will be part of the process?
I think the discussions will be part of the process. I have heard about that, but I've not heard concerns, Jake, as you would lay that out. I'm not hearing concerns that that's going to be in any way something that would jeopardize her capability of getting through the process with Republicans.
Let me ask you about Kash Patel, Trump's pick to head the FBI, also on the Hill today, also meeting with senators. He has made a number of controversial statements in the past, some of them on forums that seem questionable. There was a show he hosted called Kash's Corner for the Epoch Times, an organization known for pushing conspiracy theories. Here's a little excerpt.
We showed the corruption of the FBI's confidential human source program to cover up the FBI's corruption. We showed its lies to the FISA court, and we basically dismantled the biggest criminal syndicate operated from within the FBI by the likes of James Comey and Company.
So, criticizing the FBI, totally legitimate, and disrupting the FBI and the Justice Department. I get it. I understand it. I'm not criticizing that. But calling the FBI the biggest criminal syndicate operating from within the FBI, or saying that the biggest criminal syndicate operated from within the FBI by the likes of James Comey and Company, does that give you a moment of pause at all?
Well, I'm not familiar with the context of this discussion that you just showed, but I'll say this. I think Kash is, in every sense, right to be calling out the team there at the FBI that back in 2016 used a Clinton fabricated dossier as an excuse to come and spy on the Trump campaign. The whole context and pretext for this Russia thing that hampered the Trump campaign the first several years of his administration, all of this emanated from the FBI. All of it needs to be cleaned up. And even if you look forward to 2020, the FBI collaborated with Tony Blinken and the so-called 51
Of course, they're going to have
experts
something to say
to
about
hide
Tulsi
Hunter
Gabbard.
Biden's
There ain't no way they're
excuse
going to
me,
let her
Hunter
just
Biden's laptop.
ride,
They went out
coast,
in
and
front,
go
ran
in
that
there.
story to major social media organizations to basically say it's going to be Russian disinformation. FBI was complicit in this. There really is a lot that needs to be cleaned up, Jake, and Cash is very much focused on this.
Senator.
The Syrian people recognize and they know that if President Assad is overthrown, then al-Qaeda or a group like al-Qaeda that has been killing Christians, killing people simply because of their religion or because they won't support their terror activities, they will take charge of all of Syria. This is the reality that the people of Syria are facing on the ground and why they are pleading with us here in the United States to stop supporting these terrorist groups. Let the Syrian people themselves determine their future.
Congresswoman Gabbard at the time also expressed.
Okay, so she supported Assad. Okay, Tulsi, look. Here goes Tulsi today, okay? Tulsi Gabbard today. Here we go.
Ms. Gabbard, do you have any
waiting? I just want to start by saying it's great to be here to meet with some of my former colleagues, like Senator Langford, and I'm looking forward to continuing to engage with the senators on the committee and also in the broader Senate as we go through this process.
How would you respond to some of your fellow members describing you as a national security risk?
She looks like she's exhausted, sort of. But I guess, of course, she works out. She's a strong woman. She's been doing this a long time. This isn't the first time she's going to go through this. Well, she's never been on this level ever. But, I mean, she's a veteran, 20 years in the military. So this shouldn't, like, I don't think this is going to, like, tire her out. I don't think so.
I want to address the issue that's in the headlines right now. I stand in full support and wholeheartedly agree with the statements that President Trump has made over these last few days with regards to the developments in Syria. My own views and experiences have been shaped by my multiple deployments and seeing firsthand the cost of war and the threat of Islamist terrorism. It's one of the many reasons why I appreciate President Trump's leadership and his election, where he is fully committed, as he has said over and over, to bringing about an end to wars, demonstrating peace through strength, and putting the national security interests and the safety, security, and freedom of the American people first and foremost.
What was your relationship? What's your relationship with Assad? Meeting in Syria, Congresswoman? What about your relationship with Assad?
It's gonna get spicy for Tulsi. I'm not even gonna cap. It is going to get spicy for Tulsi. See what I did there? It is gonna get spicy for Tulsi. I ain't gonna cap, man. It's gonna get spicy for Tulsi, man, because they're not just gonna let you walk in there and, you know, get the nomination that, well, get yourself approved for the nomination that the president-elect announced. I don't know why Republicans won't just say, you know what? Yeah, well, he sort of believes in you, and so let's see. Let's just check you out, question you, and let's see what's gonna happen in the future.
Can you shed some light on your conversation with Tony?
Excellent.
It was a very good meeting with the senator. You know, the more you spend, I've known her for 10 years. The more we talk, the more we're reminded of, as two combat veterans, how dedicated we are to defense. And she has been dedicated to making the Pentagon work for warfighters for a long time. We've had great, extensive conversations about that. And I just appreciate her commitment to the process, and we look forward to working together.
Hexet is another person that is going through it. Tulsi's week is now. So Tulsi's week is going to be this week. Then I think next week is going to be RFK. Everybody's getting spicy, man. It's getting spicy. I believe Pete is going to keep fighting. He's been fighting, and it's looking like he may actually get through. You know, it's whoever's willing to fight the hardest that wins this types of battles. But if you don't fight, then
I am supporting him through this process, and I'll just refer you back to the statement.
You could change your mind?
It was a very productive meeting, though. I think we're just moving through the process. But he does respect that I'm taking the time to spend.
Did you talk about the allegations too? Did you talk about the allegations as well, Senator?
He's most likely going to get appointed. Shout out to Pete Hegseth, man.
Good morning, everyone. Here we stand once again in front of this unjust system. I stood here 10 years ago because
Daniel Penny has been acquitted in New York. And of course, Jordan Neely's family are out here looking for justice. And what would justice be for them? Meaning they want Daniel Penny found guilty, according to Jordan Neely's family. But I don't know who this is. Let's listen.
they did not give justice to my son with the chokehold. I fought hard to get the anti-chokehold bill passed, which did pass. But it shouldn't only be for police officers, it should be for civilians also. No one deserves to be choked to death. No one. And you know, we're in that courtroom and people are cheering for the verdict. They made the loudest noise. The judge did nothing. But when his father spoke out, they put him out the courtroom. Is that justice? Or what? We can't allow this to keep going on. We have to fight this system. That's what I had to do. I had to fight to get the little justice that I got. I got one police officer fired. There's more that need to be fired. But I tell this family, do not give up. Because that's what they want you to do. They want to discourage you. Just like they tried to discourage me. But 10 years later, I'm still fighting. And I'm not only fighting for myself, I'm fighting for families like yourself. That's why I have to come out when this injustice is done. If this had been the other way, if your family had murdered this so-called innocent guy now, it would have been a different story. He would have been in jail or would have never came out. But they don't do the same to us. It's two justice systems. You know that. And we have to stop this. And the only way that we can stop it is to stand together. Those of us who are against what happened, we have to speak up. We can't treat this just like another news story, not another press conference. We have to speak out, speak up, and stand up. So I just say today, we did not get justice once again. And I am saddened. I am truly saddened by this situation because it keeps on happening and no one is standing accountable for their actions. So that means that any civilian could get on the train if they feel threatened and they could choke someone out and they're going to get found not guilty, just like today. This sets a precedent. And we can't let this happen. If the police can't do it, the civilians can't do it either. And I just want you to stand with this family. This family needs you right now.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry.
All right, we just heard the Daniel Penny acquitted in subway homeless man. The press conference.
Discipline. You've shown strength. You've shown love. You've shown how to carry yourself with composure when you're facing this machine, this American judicial system that cannibalizes our people. But I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to say it loud and clear. Let the marchers march, and let the steppers step. Let the marchers march, and let the steppers step. You want to do something about this verdict? Then you go into your neighborhood and you promote black unity. Black people, we are all we have. This system protects every other group except for the very people that built this country.
Say it.
Every group that comes here gets privileges, gets benefits, except for the very people whose fingerprints are on the bricks that built this country. There is no love for black people. There is no love in the system. How can you make a moral appeal to a people that have no moral code? How can you preach love to racists?
Wait, is this Daniel Penny's father? No, sorry. Jordan Neely's father? Is this Jordan Neely's father right here? We gotta go check it out. Is this Jordan Neely's father? If this is Jordan Neely's father, man, bro. Man. If this is Jordan Neely's father, man, he needs to take some responsibilities as well. Because there ain't no way, bro. There's just no way. Okay. That your son would be homeless on the subway and then you come screaming like this. Hey, he said, come on. There's no way.
That got Dr. King killed. How can you promote love to a nation that is built on theft and genocide?
That's right.
What we preach is unity, black unity. Stop begging this system to justify our lives. Stop begging this system for justice. When things happen to you, you step up and defend yourself. Just like everybody else seeks justice on their own, just like everybody else has vigilantes, we need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. I don't know, man. Now it's becoming 2020 all over again. It's becoming 2020 all over again, trying to stir up the pot. Look. We're not going to support. We're never going to support violence. I can never ever support violence. I don't even support violence abroad, so I can never support violence in the United States. That's like total BS. I get his pain. He's going through everything right now. Probably this is his dad, I don't know, but whoever this is probably somebody close to the family. But the family needs to take some sort of responsibility for this guy. Okay, you need to take some responsibility for this guy. And like I said, look, I think Daniel Penny should have been fined, but according to the people there, they said this guy was threatening people on the train, and Daniel Penny said he felt threatened and he had to fight for himself or whatever. However, it was 3-on-1. I saw it. I saw the picture. I showed you guys, and I didn't buy it. Okay, I just didn't buy it. And people call him a hero. Some people say he needed a Congressional Medal of Honor or some BS like that. Nope. He needs to be fined, heavy fine. But all of this narrative of, racial situation, I don't know. Look, everybody thinks what they think, but I don't want this type of stuff to go on.
Tired. I know you're looking for us to be like, oh, go and march. No. This weekend, I want you to hold a community event everywhere from the Bronx to Houston to Seattle to Florida. Black people hold community events and talk about what you need and talk about how to fix your issues. If the black politicians come, don't let them in. If they come, Do not let them come and take over your fight for justice. Why? Because out of all the black politicians who said something about this initially, none of them came to court. I'm sick of these people playing with our lives.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, Pops. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know, Pops. You know, I just do not know because, you know, at the end of the day, you have to step up for your son. You have to be responsible for, you know, your son. Essentially, you have to be responsible for your son. And they're saying he's homeless. How can he be homeless and y'all are out here talking? You cannot allow your son be homeless and you're here talking. Nah, that ain't gonna work. That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. Okay, that's never gonna work. We don't want that. You have to take responsibility for your actions as well. If you guys are saying that Danielle Penny should get, you know, what he deserves for taking Jordan Neely, you two take responsibility for letting your son, your family member, your relation be homeless. That's not even right. I mean, Jesus. You know what I mean? I don't support that. Everybody needs to take responsibility. I don't think Jordan Neely is a hero. Hell no, he's not a hero. 3 against 1, that's a hero. Deserves congressional golden badge or whatever y'all were talking about. No. So the best way to de-escalate a situation is to cause escalation. I mean, it's called de-escalation. You did the same thing the person who threatened on the train said he was going to do. So now you are actually the danger. Because, I mean, Jesus. But he's been found not guilty, so we're going to have to respect that decision by the jury of his peers. But it is what it is. He's not no hero. He's a Marine veteran. I respect him for that. But he's nothing close to a hero.
We're devastated, upset, angry, hurt. Over and over again, we keep coming to the system, asking the system to let us know that our lives have value.
Just like everybody else has vigilantes, we need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same?
That was a lawyer for Jordan Neely's family, followed by a founder of Black Lives Matter New York. Breaking today, a jury has found retired Marine Daniel Penny not guilty of negligent homicide in the death of Neely on a New York City subway last year. Judge Janine Pirro has jumped in the chair for us to react, co-host of The Five. Judge, welcome. You have been on every minute of this trial. Yeah. What are your initial thoughts and reaction?
Well, my initial thoughts were when they said that they had a verdict, I said, oh my gosh, this is too soon. They were conflicted on the man too. They couldn't reach an agreement. And then all of a sudden I found out it was not guilty, which tells me that, you know, whatever questions they had on Friday, they resolved. And look, New York needed this and America needed this. People need to be able in a society where we readily admit that we don't have the police that we need, that they've been defunded, they are not everywhere, they're certainly not in the subway. And if someone comes in the subway and says, I'm going to kill an MF for today, and I don't care if I go to jail for the rest of my life, and people are so petrified that they feel like they're going to pass out, or they hide their head, or a woman takes a carriage to bring her baby closer to her, you hope that you've got Danny Penny on that subway car to protect you. And you know, I'm really outraged at these people who are saying, we need someone back. How about we do some vigilantism? You know what? Where were you when Jordan Neely was on the list of 50 of the most needy, homeless and mentally ill people in New York City, a city of 8 million people? This guy had open warrants for assaulting people on the subway. He had 42 arrests in 7 years. Where were you? And let's not kid ourselves. The guy was 30 years old. He was 6'2". He was taller than Danny Penny. He was crouched, threatening to kill on a moving, locked subway car underground. What are you supposed to do? Just let him attack people?
Yeah.
And in the end, Danny Penny did not believe that he had used deadly physical force. He held him until the police came.
Perhaps that's why this is so important. This is a Black Lives Matter activist slamming the white jury in this Penny case. And I want to get your thoughts out of it. Listen.
Forgive me for being jaded and cynical, but once we saw those 9 white jurors, we knew that this case was over. Luckily for Daniel Penny, his skin was not like...
Wait. Here we go. Racial situation. So are you trying to tell me that it was all Caucasians on the jury? It was all Caucasian on the jury? Nah, that ain't gonna work.
Jordans. These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort.
You know, I'll tell you, right off the bat, what she said 9, I mean, there were black, there were Hispanics on the jury. But maybe the better question is, why did Danny Penny make a decision to protect the African Americans on that subway car, the Hispanics on the subway car? Why did they jump in to hold Jordan Neely down? Because they felt that he was a danger. She's got it backwards. It's about time that instead of denigrating a Good Samaritan, we thank God and hope that there's a Danny Penny on a subway car.
Oh, no. Hell no. I don't wish there's no Danielle Penny on the subway. How many people are going to go to heaven if there's a Danielle Penny on the subway? Every week. Matter of fact, every day, if there's a Danielle Penny on the subway, y'all better get ready.
When we're on it, confronted with deadly physical force, imminent deadly physical force.
Yeah, I mean, at this in this particular case, implications for how this will be handled in the future, especially in a very dangerous, crime-ridden New York City, where people are very scared to get on those train cars.
Well, do you remember they had AR-15s? They had the National Guard down there.
Absolutely.
Dangerous.
Still see it every day when some of us go down there. Judge, the latest on this suspect on the run in the case of the murder right here in Midtown Manhattan of this healthcare CEO. We are told that they've got this guy. They're questioning him. It's about 270 miles from where we're sitting right now and about equal distance from where he murdered that healthcare CEO outside the Hilton here in Midtown Manhattan. Your thoughts as we learn more and see these brand new pictures, which as you were sitting down, we discussed. Some of these pictures, this looks like a completely different person. Is this the person?
Look, when you've got experts and facial recognition people and they say it's the same person, I agree. Yeah. Okay, it's not up to me as a layperson to make the assessment that an expert can. But you know, the hairs on the back of my neck went up when they said that they found this person of interest in Pennsylvania. We were looking for Robert Durst, the serial murderer, and we found him in Pennsylvania. But I think that when you've got state, local, federal, NYPD is the best law enforcement agency in the country. I've always said that. But working together, they're going to find the guy. There is no question about it. They probably know who he is, and they're not going to do it and make the arrest until they've got everything they need.
It has the markings of this particular suspect, of somebody who wanted to leave a trail. You look at the markings on the shell casings. You look at what was left in this backpack that allegedly belongs to this person. Any of that send a message to you?
Oh, it absolutely does. There's a game going on here. I think that there is an undercurrent of something else, and I don't want to say yet, but I've got people who've contacted me and said there's more to this than you think. But then you've got this young guy who was dumb enough to flirt with a girl at the hostel and take his mask down.
Right.
I mean, that's like an amateur.
And stop at a Starbucks and a McDonald's and all these other places. Judge, thank you for all of your coverage of the Daniel Penny trial as well.
Thank God.
Many days outside of that courthouse here in New York City. Thank you. All right, John.
Look, I'm glad they found the gunman for the United Healthcare situation, but Danielle Penny, check this video out. I'm gonna play y'all another video, okay? I'll play you another video. Check this out. Danielle is celebrating with a glass.
Daniel Penny and his lawyers raising a toast to his freedom just moments after a
The hero. Take a look at the hero, guys. Hero. Shout out to the hero, Daniel Penny. Right? Hero.
jury in Manhattan found the Marine veteran not guilty of criminally negligent homicide in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on a crowded subway. The verdict causing the courtroom to erupt in claps from Penny's defense, as well as threats on Penny's life from Black Lives Matter leaders who just days ago promised riots if Penny was acquitted.
Everybody else has vigilantes. We need some black vigilantes. That's right. People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
The only crime that Jordan Neely was guilty of.
That's BS. What he said was BS.
Was the color of his skin. These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort. Them and America.
Judge Janine Pirro is going to get a major exclusive. She'll be sitting down with Daniel Penny for his first interview since the not guilty verdict, and I cannot wait to see that. You can catch the first look right here. That'll be on the 5 tomorrow, and then the full interview streams on Wednesday on Fox Nation. Judge Janine, I'm so glad you're going to get this chance to talk to him, and you've been at the trial. You know the lawyers involved. You've followed every step of this. Mm-hmm. I think this is a result that many of us thought should be the case, but as of Friday, it was definitely not a sure thing.
You're right, Dana. I think Friday when they said that they were hung on the Man 2 top count, but that they would be coming back on the crim neg, we were all concerned that it might be a compromised crim neg guilty verdict. The truth is that as you analyze this, the justification that they clearly had a problem with on the Man 2, which is why they hung, they had the same problem, and it's the same justification issue in the crim neg homicide. So without getting into weeds, they finally, all of them decided that he was justified. And it was a good day for New York. It's a good day for America because people, you know, like Hawk Newsom can come out and say, you know, we need black vigilantes, you know, people shouldn't be killed for yelling. I mean, they don't know the facts or they're hiding the facts. I mean, this is a guy who had 4.
That was the picture. 2 guys holding Jordan Neely's hands, restraining his arm, and you have, what's his name? Daniel Penny right there. So if Penny is a hero, what would you call the 2 guys holding and restraining Jordan Neely? They all deserve a golden chain. Okay? Congressional golden medal. Every one of them deserves it. 3 of them, not just Jordan Neely, not just Daniel Penny, because y'all are saying Daniel Penny is a hero. What about the 2 guys? Do you even know their names? You don't. Y'all are just far, far right. I don't care about far, far right, okay? Y'all want to be far, far right, same as the far, far left. This is total BS.
42 arrests in a 7-year period. It was on a list of the top 50 homeless, mentally ill people who needed his help in New York, in a city of 8 million. And he had open warrants for assaulting women on the subway. He fractured a 68-year-old woman's orbital bone. Bottom line is this. Good Samaritans can act now to protect themselves and others. And I think that across the country, Americans feel that we're back to law and order. Because as a result of defund the police movement,
Judge Janine, I love you. Like, I love you. Like, I've always loved you. Since the first day that I heard you, I've always loved you. But this, America is back to law and order for this. Come on, man. Come on. Okay? Like, when wrong is wrong, okay? No matter who does it, wrong is wrong, all right? Like I said, should he go to jail? Absolutely not. But pay a fine. He needs to pay a fine, bro. So what? The next time somebody yells in the subway, you just choke them? Look, I'm done with y'all.
Movement. We don't have the police officers in the subway or in places where we need them. And we've got to have people like Daniel Penny who will stand up for the rest of us. Daniel Penny, who for the last year and a half went through hell. He faced imprisonment by, as far as I'm concerned, a corrupt political prosecutor, a medical examiner who wouldn't even wait for the test results. I wouldn't tolerate that as my medical examiner when I was DA. Just said, we don't care how much drugs he had in him. This is a strangulation without all the attendant injuries that I won't waste your time with here. Daniel Penny, however, does face civil charges going forward. But tomorrow and today, when I spoke to his lawyers and to him, they are trying to celebrate and kind of take in the fact that the justice system worked for them.
And his life, he's 27 years old.
26, turned 26.
So his life has really been on hold ever since he stepped in, Harold. How do you rate this result?
Well, first, good to be with everybody. Today was a day in which our justice system delivered a verdict. It was a verdict that I wanted. I did not want to see Daniel Penny convicted of even what was dismissed by the judge, which was a curious decision by the judge. I would agree, the judge in this case, I would agree with Judge Janine. I think one of the focuses today, and I think Mayor Adams said it well a day or two ago, or maybe a few days ago now, when he said, we've got to figure out how we deal with the mentally ill in our community and in our country. I think those who are protesting today have every right to. I disagree with them. I don't think this was a racial issue at all. I think people are too quick to see race when race is the only thing staring you in the face and you don't think about the issues. I think had Jordan Neely been white, and obviously Daniel Penny is white, it's unclear to me that any of those people would be out there complaining today. They would be consistent if they believe that mentally ill people are being discriminated against, and perhaps they are. And what we need to do is figure out ways in which to have a smarter coordination of resources and efforts to try to be helpful, and to perhaps spend more resources if we have to. But I am an American and a New Yorker who is pleased that Daniel Penny is walking free today.
There almost seems, Jesse, to be a little bit of frustration from some in the media that there aren't more riots and angst over this verdict.
There used to be, years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we would expect riots. Those days are long gone, hopefully. Finally, this guy, Alvin Bragg, can stop wasting our time and money. The one case, the political case, got tossed by a judge, and now this social justice case just got tossed by a jury. In both cases, he made up crimes. Daniel Penny was defending the public, and Donald Trump was defending his reputation. Thank God. Now, I think Donald Trump is probably going to find a good way to commemorate Penny. Maybe we'll see him walk out at the next UFC fight. Maybe he'll put him in the cabinet. I don't know. But this is the type of situation where you're going to see these two guys together very soon. Huge defeat for Soros for funding people like this. Huge defeat for these social justice prosecutions, for BLM. No one's rallying to their side. No one's going to riot for this. And just a great victory, as Judge Janine mentioned, for New York, for the criminal justice system here in New York, which has gotten battered, for America, for common sense. You can almost, when this thing hit, you're like, we're getting back to what made this country great. Things like this. And for a while, it wasn't like this, and now we're getting back. And I hate to say, how much I hate judges and how much I hate lawyers. But Judge Janine, this defense attorney, did an amazing job.
Two of them.
Two of these guys did an amazing job. And I never say this, but well done. Well done.
Tom Caniff and Steve Razor.
Before I ask Brian a final question, Judge, will any of the jurors do media interviews, or you don't know? I mean, it's possible.
I don't know, but they certainly can do that if they want to. And I just want to add one thing, Dana, and it'll only take a second here. You remember some of the people holding Jordan Neely down were African American and Hispanic. Some of the people on the jury were African American and Hispanic. This isn't about race.
No, this is about the subway. You take the subway or the train, you know what it's like out there in the streets.
4 or 5 days. I'm always on the subway. A lot of times there's antics going on,
Turn on
and
that-
a lot
turn
of
off
times
that
it's
light.
crazy white people too. And you just sit there and say, I can't wait for my stop. It's only 2 stops more, and that later. But I will say this. This is the time, if you really want to help, we're getting to know some Democrats who have had it. Robert Holden, Democrat from Ohio, from Queens, who stood up and said, New York has got to straighten out. We've got to get rid of these illegal immigrants. We've got to start cracking down on crime. And Richie Torres, he wants to either be mayor or governor in New York. If you would take the next step.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. But with that being said, so according to whatever the doctor did, they said that the chokehold wasn't the cause of the death. Okay? It was the drugs. Right? I get it. But what y'all are saying, if I hear y'all right, is anytime anybody says something on the subway, choke them. Right? That's where we are? Is that what we're saying right now? So when anybody says anything on the subway, get them, right? Because this is our hero right here. I just want to know. I just want to know where we at. Let me know where we at, guys. So, this is our hero. Whenever anybody says anything, don't de-escalate with some sense. Okay? Don't de-escalate with some sense. Don't try to talk them down. Don't try to, say, bro, it's all right. I know life is hard. I know you're going through life. I know it's really hard for you, bro. I get it. Okay? But this is not the way. Relax. I am rooting for you, bro. Life is hard for me too. Okay? Life is hard for everybody on this train. Just relax, okay? Don't do that. Just go straight to choking them because you feel threatened. Everybody on the subway now that just are loud, say something stupid, you should go ahead on and choke them. I see. Great, guys.
And say, I call on the governor to remove Alvin Bragg. I know he was elected to office, but he's been an embarrassment. He's wasting tons of money. Yeah. He's destroying the reputation of New York City. If you want to, crime can't be helped in many cases, but it can be enforced and it can be stopped when it is enforced. And we're not seeing that. I think people are fed up. And I believe this is the beginning of the end of the woke DAs. Elon Musk is going to put some money into it, like George Soros did before.
Y'all are going too far right these days. Like, come on. Thank God I'm not a Republican, because this right here ain't it. Yeah, I can't even, thank God I'm not a Republican, because what is this? Talking about Elon Musk is going to put money into it. Money into what? You better let that man take us to Mars, talking about put money into it. And now they want to compare him to Donald Trump. Listen to what Jesse talking about, right? Come on, Jesse. Come on, man.
Years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we would expect.
Thank God
riots.
I'm an independent.
Those days are long gone, hopefully. Finally, this guy, Alvin Bragg, can stop wasting our time and money. The one case, the political case, got tossed.
And that's the thing, Joshua. That's the great thing right here. Majority of the chat disagrees with me. What am I supposed to do? Change my mind? No. Taking somebody else's life is not what I will stand for, regardless. BTK says you're going left. How? Because I'm not saying Daniel Penny should go to jail, because what Jordan Neely did was wrong as well. But just letting it slide. What? We're just gonna let it slide? Look at this idiot. SOS UNFB. Block your air real fast. Like, that's how I know you are so right. Now I'm the enemy. Now you want to get me choked out. Like, y'all are just... Now that one wants to choke me out because I'm saying my opinion. He wants to choke me out. And you're not far right. And I'm the far left. So I'm the far left and you're the good right. You're in the center. You're not far right, okay? But you want to choke me because I'm saying what I'm saying. You think I care about your opinion? You can give your opinion. You don't have to care about my opinion, but this is my opinion. This is your hero. Celebrating with a glass. Deserves the Congressional Medal of Honor. Now is a Marine, a veteran. I respect that. But, bro. What? Now you're moderate, but you want to choke me because I'm saying what I'm saying. And you ain't far right though. Total BS.
African American and Hispanic. Some of the people on the jury were African American and Hispanic. This isn't about race.
No, this is about the subway. You take the subway or...
And that's it. Gavin McCarthy says, well, there's a civil case which he'll probably lose. Yes, and that's where I stand, which is pay up. Pay up. Pay up. Like, pay up. He has to pay. He just has to pay. A fine. I said a fine. That's it. And it's cool if you don't like my opinion, but what? I don't have a right to have an opinion? Like, you can have your own opinion, but I'm supposed to what? Support your opinion because what? This is total BS. Everybody here, I like them. Judge Janine, Jesse, every one of them. I mean, but I can never go with this. BTK still says he is a hero to everyone in the subway car. How do you... He ain't... Look. BTK, did you see a video of everyone on the subway car saying, he's the hero, he's our hero? And if there is a video saying he is a hero, great. Okay, great. But I cannot in good conscience, whether he is on drugs, homeless, whatever, I cannot in good conscience support that. Okay, there were 3 guys, Penny, 2 other guys, and Jordan Neely eventually lost his life. So I just cannot in good conscience support that. I can't support that. Knowing fully well this guy is on drugs. He needs help. Not sending him to Jesus. Godly.
Train, you know what it's like out there in the streets?
4 or 5 days. I'm always on the subway. A lot of times.
Walter, thank you. Walter says heroes are usually by themselves. You ain't no hero with 2 people helping you out. And you couldn't release a little bit, like, relax, bro. Look, I'm going to let you go right now because I got 2 other guys holding you down. I'm going to let you go. Please relax. I'm letting you go now. Average Joe says he was alone until later. So as soon as that later came into perspective, why didn't they just release a little bit? Y'all saying until later. Okay, so when they came, why didn't he let him go? He could have just let him go after they came, like, yo. But it still didn't let him go. We saw the video up here, y'all. Y'all keep saying until later. But yeah.
There's antics going on, and a lot of times it's crazy white people, too. And you just sit there and say, I can't wait for my...
Chad, I schooled in New York, bro. Chad talking big talk for someone who hasn't been in that situation. Never. I schooled in New York. I took the subway. I lived in Far Rockaway, Queens, and I took the subway to my film school in Manhattan. Do you know how long that is? That's over 1 hour. You think I didn't see stupidity on the train?
Stops, only 2 stops, more on that later. But I will say this. This is a time, if you really want to help, we're getting to know some Democrats who have had it. Robert Holden, Democrat from Ohio, from Queens, who stood up and said, New York has got to straighten out. We've got to get rid of these illegal immigrants. We've got to start cracking down on crime. And Richie Torres, he wants to either be mayor or governor in New York. If you would take the next step and say, I call on the governor to remove Alvin Bragg. I know he was elected to office, but he's been an embarrassment. He's wasting tons of money. Yeah. He's destroying the reputation of New York City. If you want to, he said crime can't be helped in many cases, but it can be enforced and it can be stopped when it is enforced. And we're not seeing that. I think people are fed up. And I believe this is the beginning of the end of the woke DAs. Elon Musk is going to put some money into it, like George Soros did before. We're going to run some real candidates. Democrats or Republicans, doesn't matter. Just enforce the law and be tough on crime. First it was Democrats had to shake the defund the police. Cory Bush started it. They had to shake it. Then they have the woke DAs. There's Tessa Bodine, and then you get the guy Gascon in L.A. Kim Fox is now history. And now this guy should be next. If Democrats want to rehab in 2 years, beginning to take America's trust back, get rid of this guy.
Chad, what's his name? Chad Thomas. You were here watching this stream telling me how to speak.
All right. Thank you all for that wonderful A block. We continue.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, or at this point, maybe not. Cause y'all going way too right for me, y'all.
All right, joining us now.
BTK, you know I respect you, okay? BTK, you've been generous on the channel. I respect you 1000%. This is why Penny has to pay, in my opinion, because your actions, everybody should be responsible for their actions, no words. Be responsible for your actions. As an adult, you're only, if I tell you I'm gonna buy a car, those are just words. But if I actually go and buy a car, then that's an action. Adults are responsible for their actions, so Penny should be responsible for his actions. You caused what eventually led to another man losing his life. Just pay. I'm not saying take him to jail. Pay for damages or something. I'm not saying Penny go to jail, no. Because Neely also, according to the news, threatened people on the subway. So, why would he threaten people on the subway? However, why would Penny take, I don't want to say take another man's life, because according to y'all saying like the medical professional said it wasn't the chokehold, it was the drugs. But did you think if the chokehold didn't happen, it will still lose his life? I doubt that. So pay for damages. I'm not saying go to jail, but pay, because your action led to another man's life, like out of this world. Come on, man. Y'all don't have respect for people's lives anymore. Y'all way too right. So no respect for people's lives anymore. That's what we're doing. BTK says, but it's self-defense. Self-defense is you versus me. Okay? It's you versus me. You come to me. You try to come at me. You come to my house to steal something. That's self-defense. You get that self-defense. But not on the subway where there are like at least 80 people. And 2 people restraining this guy. Y'all call it self-defense. I get it. I'm not going to talk about it. Y'all say it's self-defense. All right, self-defense. Y'all go give him your congressional golden chain. And yeah, we're just going to leave it there. We're going to disagree on this right here. I can never support you. You can never support me based on this issue. And it's fine. I can live with that.
Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief of National Review. Emily Capano, co-host of Outnumbered on Fox News and author of the #1 New York Times best-selling book, Under His Wings. Okay. Emily, I'm going to have to read the book.
Absolutely.
I want to read the book. I can't afford it, so you'll probably
There's a signed copy for you, of course.
but I would love to read the book. And I want to start with you. We were chewing on this similar thoughts on Outnumbered this morning. And I see this as a return to normalcy theme. Not everybody's going to agree with me, but I see this. I see this whole thing. You know, catching the bad guys, the jury system works, normal election night. But I really, when I watched Mr. Trump in Paris this weekend, yes, he is taking now his rightful place as the world's leader. There's no question about that. But I do think of it as the Al Smith dinner writ large. I think just being at the Notre Dame Cathedral and all of its splendor, he's making a statement about room. We have plenty of room. I'll put it to you that way. Plenty of room for religion. Plenty of room for spiritual culture in this country. The far left is wrong. They don't like religion. They don't like God. They've tried to keep it out. Mr. Trump during the campaign said no. He went to churches. He went to the Al Smith dinner. And that's how I saw this Notre Dame Cathedral ceremony too. It's almost, you know what, a statement to America and maybe the rest of the world as well. How about that? I'm sort of bumbling through this, but you know what I'm saying? This is a return to normalcy.
Yes, no, you were remarkably effective in how you articulated that. I agree that not only is his actions and America's actions indicating a restoration to normalcy, but also slaking the thirst of America that we have had for now so many years, craving faith and craving a graceful capture of our Judeo-Christian values, not in this, to your point, how you articulated earlier, a separation of church and state to a fault, to a secularity, to a negative. The original concept of separation of church and state was the protection of exercising one's faith from persecution of the government. And under the current administration, Americans were shown exactly what happens when there is a straight-up persecution of Judeo-Christian faith. And we saw it in the FBI, the DOJ, we saw it in our administration leaders. You know, look at Kamala Harris, for example. So President-elect Trump attended the Al Smith dinner. Kamala Harris did not attend, nor did she record a message, which prior vice presidents and presidents have. So the precedence that this administration set was a full-out attack on those who dare to have morals and values based on the family structure, based on God, faith, and country. President Trump came in and said, look, not only do I represent this, but I represent a freedom for Americans to do so themselves. And that's why my book shot to #1, day one. It's why the Bible, as you said, has increased massively in sales.
Bible sales have increased enormously. And your book is about faith in the military, is that right? Which is so important, so important.
Thank you.
Rich Larry, I mean, the return to normalcy theme, and I'm probably spreading my wings too far in this, but nonetheless, not just the orderly election night a month ago, more or less, but also, look, the jury did right with Daniel Penny. There's no question about that. Every sane person except Alvin Bragg, who was not a sane person, understood that. Maybe the judge, too, who was playing footsie with Bragg underneath the table. Okay, that was pretty bad. But also, look, let the cops and the FBI field agents do their job. Depoliticize the legal system. Stop all this retribution. Stop all this weaponization. Stop all this lawfare stuff. And I will say ironically, but I don't even think that's fair, it is Mr. Trump who's the guy who's going to do it. No one ever did it the way Joe Biden did. And look how it backfired.
Yeah. So first of all, when you can get Magna Carta and Notre Dame in one opening monologue, that's an A+.
I worked on that.
That's an A+.
I really worked on
But this Penny case never should have been brought. This is a good day for New York City, a good day for the justice system, and a good day for Daniel Penny. If he had punched someone randomly on a subway platform and been half out of his mind, he'd be on the streets instantly. Instead, he was dragged through a years-long ordeal for being the good guy, for being that rare person who dares to stand up and protect others, and Bragg went after him, and with an illegitimate tactic, right? He had these 2 charges on the assumption, oh, if they reject the most serious one, then they'll compromise on the second one and send him to jail for 4 years or whatever it is. Good for the jury for seeing through it and rejecting it.
A good day for New York City also, and the Blue Line, the New York City cops, the New York's finest, and the FBI agents. If the guy they caught in Altoona, Pennsylvania, turns out to be the murderous killer of this healthcare executive, which is a hideous, heinous crime, and which, by the way, you know, New York City needs this. New York City needs to show that a jury will make Penny a hero, not a goat, right? Not keep him at jail. And it needs to show that it can find a hideous killer and capture that killer. Now, I'm getting ahead of the story with the hideous killer part, but I have a feeling they're onto something. New York needs this.
Absolutely.
And so does the rest of the country, for heaven's sake.
So this guy's been celebrated. This act of murder has met with a lot of sympathy, which is outrageous. As of a week ago, I would have thought that was crazy. There's no way that people would celebrate a cold-blooded assassination. And in terms of
this is the same thing right here. People are celebrating this gunman for putting down a CEO of United Healthcare Insurance. It's the same thing with what happened on the train, basically. Y'all supporting straight up, like, no respect for people's lives these days. Like, how did we even get here? Huh?
New York City, you don't want to be the city that executives come to and get shot in the back, right? You don't. So it looks as though if this is the guy, this is awesome police work, Larry, the way they hunted down the trail and found this guy.
All right, I want to move on, but I really love these. I really love these thoughts.
And shout out to the McDonald's person who actually called, because it was a McDonald's person that called and said, yo, I think there's somebody here who looks like the person you're looking for. So they got to shout that person out too.
At the end, as you know, the Meet the Press interview, I was very disappointed, but I don't want to go there. Maybe I shouldn't have been disappointed. But I want to play some immigration tape on this and let you two comment on that, because Mr. Trump is clarifying some of his positions. Take a listen on this immigration, please.
I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success, and we're going to all work together, and we're going to bring it together. And you know what's going to bring it together? Success. Unity. It's going to be a message of unity. And again, I think success brings unity.
It's the unity one, which I love. Happy to play it all over again. While we're talking, we may try to get back the immigration tape, which I do want to play. We have, okay, here it comes. Here's immigration. I knew we could do it.
You know.
So, yeah, I see your comments. BTK says, don't mix debates. Peterson says it's not the same thing at all. The trend was self-defense versus an assassination. T-Ban K says not the same thing, but whatever. Yeah, because when you talk to the guy that actually did what he did to the United Healthcare CEO, what did he say? In the notes, it says these people are parasites and they have to be stopped, right? So in his mind, he's defending people. That's it. Look, there's always a perspective. Okay, everybody has a perspective of why or on why they're doing what they're doing. Okay, his perspective is they're a parasite and somebody needs to do something. And he took it upon himself to do something. Tell me how that's not the same.
The people that have been treated very unfairly are the people that have been online for 10 years to come into the country. And we're going to make it very easy for people to come in terms of they have to pass the test. We have to get the criminals out of our country. But we're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others, and we're going to see how it goes.
All right, so he's starting with the criminals. This is on the deportation question. By the way, the beefing up the border wall remain in Mexico will be at the top of his list the very first day he's inaugurated. But on this point, Emily, it is interesting. He's throwing an olive branch here. This is, again, I could have even included this in the return to normalcy. Throwing an olive branch to Democrats. He's basically saying, you know what? We can talk about the dreamers. That's the least of our problem right now. Maybe we can work something out. Incidentally, we tried to work something out in his first term, but Democrats did not want a broader-based legal immigration reform plan. But now he's saying to them, all right, we may be able to work something out in Dreamers, but we must deport the criminals. Now, I think that's pretty good on both counts. Number one, makes his position clear on deporting criminals. And number two, he's going softly right now. And I think that's a positive.
Well, I see it as effective triage. So essentially we're looking at is an emergency room physician saying, I'm going to stop the bleeding right now. I'm going to save this person's life. And then while they're recovering, the next step, we can talk about their, the cholesterol. And so what I see here is that he's essentially saying, look, at this moment, we have, as we know, 750,000 illegal immigrants who happen to be criminals, who have histories, recorded criminal histories and convictions, and that's regardless of them crossing the border illegally here. So he's saying, let's triage and get these criminals out. Let's deport those that are sort of really eradicating and eroding any type of law and order whatsoever in many cities, to the point where every state is a border state. That's why. And then let's talk about legislation. And let's talk about that in a meaningful way where everyone can get on board, and there's no name calling from those on the left, and there's no knee-jerk talk about that he's a fascist and the like. So I see that as effective communication, but also effective leadership at this moment, and exactly the kind of governing that we need, which is stem the flow right now, and then we can hit the salient points later on after we've managed the triage.
Rich Lowry, what's so interesting here is the public likes what he's saying.
Yeah.
I mean, the numbers on his transition are the best numbers he has ever had. Well over 50% approval. The best numbers he's ever had, I say that. He's being sensible. He's being common sensible. He's doing what he said he was going to do, but he's doing it. You know what? Think of it, his tone, his demeanor. These are all things that the far left railed on. He's not doing that. He actually didn't do it in the campaign either, but they never give him credit. He's just, I'm not saying he's a different guy. He's the same guy, but people are getting to know him, and he himself is showing right now, a month after the election, right now during the transition, that he can govern.
Yeah, that tone. Well, first of all, it's the smoothest presidential transition ever, right? Because Donald Trump is effectively already president, and he's not going to be inaugurated for another month and a half or whatever it is. But you saw in that interview, the tone was measured. He emphasized he got elected on the border and the economy, especially.
That's absolutely true, because he's already making calls. People are already coming to Mar-a-Lago. Like Justin Trudeau's already at Mar-a-Lago talking deals with this guy. He's already talking to leaders of the world. Mexican president, she's already trying to play ball, because it's like, Trump was like, look, we're going to tariff y'all to oblivion if you don't do something about the border. And this is why Trump is a leader, okay? This guy is just on another level when it comes to peace through strength. And another reason why I like this dog is he always advocates for peace, okay? When you do something stupid, he's going to let you know, look, y'all going to get the smoke. But for the most part, he's always like, peace is the only way. He's always advocating for peace. That's why you had no Ukraine and Russia. That's why you had no Israelites, Palestinian people, Iran, when he was the commander-in-chief, because he advocated for peace. Common sense. Peace through strength. And y'all can say anything, like the Democrats can say anything or whatever. Y'all can say anything, but you can never deny that we never had Ukraine, Russia when he was president. You never had Israel, Palestinian people, Iran. And this is why the world respect him. Only the strong, this is the thing that I've learned in life, only the strong know how to seek for peace, because they know what they are actually capable of. They know they can destroy y'all in like 2 seconds, but they know it's like, look, I don't want to fight because I know what I'm capable of, okay? Can we have a peaceful conversation? The strongest people are always the greatest diplomat. That's something I've learned. The strongest people are always the greatest diplomats, because they know how strong they are, and they know how much destruction they can cause when they do set out to do so. And This is why I respect Trump. This is why I supported him. This is why I support him. And this is why I voted for Trump, because I perceive him as a strong figure, and only strong people know how to advocate for peace, in my opinion.
Prices and groceries. He knows that. He's going to focus on that. And who's really going to oppose deporting illegal immigrant criminals, right? That's what they're going to focus on first. As Emily points out, hundreds of thousands of them. And after that tranche, you have about 1.3 million people who have defied deportation orders, have gone through the system, been ordered deported and stayed. If you can get all those people out, that's a lot, and that'd be an enormous victory. And you'd send a message we're serious about enforcement again, which would discourage people from coming in the first place.
And Kristen Welker repeatedly tried to entrap him in that Meet the Press thing, where he would, I'm going to get the Bidens. I'm going to throw this one in jail. I'm going to throw that one in jail. He wouldn't take the bait. I mean, he's just really gotten very good at it, which is part of the reason for his popularity. And also, he believes in God, which I think is part of the reason for his popularity. Last word, Emily Campani.
Amen to that. I think we're seeing 2.0 President Trump, and like all of us with a little experience, we get better, we get more graceful, and I think the administration in between 45 and 47 actually, I think, made him much stronger, more effective.
Yes. So him losing in 2020, well, most people say he didn't, but him not being the president in 2020 to 2024, that was probably the best thing that happened to Republicans, Democrats, and independents, and the United States as a whole, because now people saw the difference between what Trump did and what they have in Joe Biden. The respect they had in Trump and this delusion they have in Biden, like this sluggish movement they have in Biden. But look at Trump. He's already commanding the respect. This is what you want your commander-in-chief to look like, to walk like, to speak like. Man, this guy's, he's probably never be forgotten. He wouldn't be forgotten in 10, 20 years. Now, if he does create a healthcare system that is very affordable and replaces Obamacare, he won't be forgotten in like 25 years. But if he doesn't do that, I mean, he's already gone through a lot of stuff. He's already gone through a lot of stuff with the assassination attempts. His name is going to be sealed on the sands of time, however. But if he creates something that lasts forever, and I just believe healthcare system is something that is paramount. He's always spoken about how Obamacare is like bad, but he needs to bring up something. He's been saying he has a concept. I get it. But now he is the president-elect. He needs to bring together the greatest minds, RFK, some of the great minds in this insurance company and in this healthcare system, and they need to come up with a plan that helps the people, and also that that replaces Obamacare. Or we're still gonna have Obamacare in the next 4 years, and people are just gonna say, well, Obamacare is bad, but why didn't we replace it? You know what I mean? So he's always said it's bad. It's a bad medical care, or bad health care. So do something about it. That's something that I really want him to do, to really solidify and cement his legacy. But he's already a great legend anyway. I mean, okay, looks like Biden voted for Trump.
So I ask, is a new normal coming back to American life? And that's the subject of the riff. Maybe it's just me, but it seems like within just a couple of weeks after Donald Trump's landslide victory, that a new normal is coming back to American life. For one thing, the significant magnitude of his election victory has stopped all the horror show scenarios that were predicted by so many in the media, especially the liberal left media. Contrary to the received wisdom, the election was decided that night, not 3 weeks later or several months later, but that very evening. There were no presidential recounts. There was no violence. Mr. Trump won convincingly, and that was that. It was an orderly, normal presidential election. And despite the ritual name-calling, mostly aimed at Mr. Trump, call it the fascist Hitler factor, The fact is, Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden sat down amicably in the Oval Office to plan a peaceful and successful transition. Biden looked the happiest he's looked in years. You'd think he voted for Trump. I do. Then this past weekend, Mr. Trump, sitting next to Jill Biden at the Notre Dame Cathedral, looked very cozy, both of them smiling. Kind of a G7 type smooch from Mrs. Biden, who was definitely leaning into the conversation. In a church, no less. Tut, tut. Think she voted for Donald Trump? I do. On Meet the Press this weekend, President Trump repeated his campaign message that success would end the divisions and would unify the country. Take a listen.
I'm not looking to go back into the past. I'm looking to make our country successful. Retribution will be through success, and we're going to all work together, and we're going to bring it together. And you know what's going to bring it together? Success. Unity. It's going to be a message of unity. And again, I think success brings unity.
There you have it. More normalcy. Meanwhile, in New York City, justice was served with the acquittal of former Marine Daniel Penny, where the crazy far-left DA Alvin Bragg once again turned back by a jury of our peers. Penny was a hero. He is a hero. He deserves a medal. And in breaking news, as Jerry Willis reported, the NYPD, working with the FBI, has arrested a suspect in the hideous murder of a healthcare executive. I'm thinking that New York's finest and the FBI agents in the field are very good at what they do if the politicians would just let them do it. I'm thinking the juries are very good at what they do if the politicians would just let them do it. Our Constitution and our system of common and criminal law, based on a jury system, something we inherited nearly 900 years ago from the English Magna Carta, works very well when it is depoliticized. The system works if we depoliticize it without left-wing weaponization and lawfare and other forms of manipulation. And yes, I think President Trump will return our legal system back to normal. And then if I can return back to the magnificent feat of restoring Notre Dame, I think President Trump had an eye on restoring normal religion and culture back to American society. Maybe even sending a message to Europe on this as well. Liberal progressives don't like religion. They want to keep God out of our life. They are secularists to a fault. Yes, it is a free country, but that includes religious freedom as well. When Mr. Trump went to the Al Smith dinner during the campaign, he was making a statement not only about helping Catholic charities, but about the importance of religion in our culture, in our families, our communities, and our country. He won the Catholic vote by 20 points, according to some exit.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy, Genesis. Okay, everybody in the chat, I want you to double tap your screen. Let's get the likes up right now. Double tap your screen. And I also have one request from you guys. I want to ask you guys a question. Anybody in the chat, you've heard Trump. You probably voted for Trump, most of you in the chat. Can you tell me one thing that you don't like about Trump? Yeah, this is where we know who's who. Tell me one thing you don't like about Trump. Maybe one of his policies that you don't like, or maybe something that he does that you don't like, or something that he said he was going to do that you're like, I don't know if I want that. For me, I would say immunity for law enforcement officers, the police, because look, every adult, for me, has to take responsibility for their actions. So, that is like, I don't know. I don't like that. I think they can, it can work more on that because in every industry, there is always a bad actor. Okay. So if there's a bad actor and you're giving everybody immunity, then, there's an issue. But he's also said that they're going to look closely when anything happens. It's not just blanket immunity. Okay. That's the only thing that I would say. BTK says Genesis is in the transition too quiet. You talking about Trump's transition? Is that what you mean? If you're talking about Trump's transition, I don't think it's quiet. This man is going everywhere. He was at Notre Dame. He's talking to Mexico president, Canadian. He's about to make Canadian a state, the 51st state. Yeah, it's not quiet. If you're talking about Trump's transition, it's not quiet. But are you talking about my transition? I don't know.
Polls, whereas back in 2020, Joe Biden captured the Catholic vote. Restoring the 800-year-old Notre Dame Cathedral itself was a restatement of...
So everything Trump does, Glengar, you are 100% in support. Armando Lopez, everything Trump does, you have nothing. You support 1,000% everything Trump does. Lucy says everything Trump does is good. So y'all don't have anything like, there's nothing, everything you support it. BTK says from the Democrat side. I think Biden is really happy. That's something. He's happy he's going to get out of there. He's happy that he's going to stop taking all these trips, climbing staircases, maybe falling off, mumbling speech. He's just happy he's gone. And the transition, it's a little, maybe I may have to agree with you, BTK. It might be a little slow, but Trump is making it fast because you can't just not depend. You cannot depend on these guys to help you transition. You have to do the transition yourself. And I'm sure even when he becomes the president, there will be some things that the Biden administration will still have to help him with because he walks really fast and they might be too slow for him. Everybody knows Trump is like way too, his speed is on another level.
The importance of a more religious and spiritual culture. Think of it as the Al Smith dinner writ large. Having the new world leader, Donald J. Trump, attend that ceremony punctuates that thought. I believe this, too, is a sign that we may be restoring normalcy. And that's...
Yes, y'all. Look, I respect everybody's opinion. This is my thing. I let you have an opinion. You let me have an opinion. We don't have to agree on everything. Like I voted for Trump, but I told you things that I don't agree with Trump. I don't buy agreeing with somebody 100%. It's like, come on, man. Can you get an opinion, please? It's like you just support this person 100%. There's something that he might have said that you're like, maybe not say that way. But 90% of everything you do, I F with it. But like, I don't see why someone would agree with somebody else 100%. It's like everybody's different in this world. You cannot 1,000% agree with somebody else, but you can like them. But it's okay to like somebody and disagree on some issues. No? Maybe it's just me.
Some great camera work. A huge break in the hunt for the killer. New York City police announcing that a suspect has been arrested in the brutal murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He's 26-year-old. You're looking at him right now, Luigi Mangione. He was found hundreds of miles away from Manhattan, I think 285, eating at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after being spotted by workers. The New York Post reports that he's an anti-capitalist Ivy League grad. He was valedictorian of his high school class, who liked online quotes from Unabomber Ted Kaczynski. Here's what police had to say.
Officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset.
All right, that's what we know so far. And while cops investigate, some on the left are actually treating the suspect like a hero. New Yorkers held a tasteless shooter lookalike contest in Washington Square Park. Where else? And former Washington Post reporter Taylor Lorenz has been openly celebrating his murder while suggesting other executives should also be targeted. So many executives have taken their name offline on their websites because now they feel as though they could be targeted. I'm sure they're getting personal security. So before we talk about the inappropriate celebrating of the killer, can we talk about this anti-capitalist? He had handwritings about his chronic back pain, perhaps that he had. He made his gun off a 3D printer, a tech wizard who graduated in 2016. So, Dana, it seems like this guy is divorced from reality. He was living this great life. And now he doesn't realize on some level killing somebody is going to put him in prison for the rest of his life.
Well, I am glad for everybody that's worried about this, especially for Brian Thompson's family, that he is apparently caught and they can maybe start to relax. But what I find, not relax, but, you know, not worry that there's maybe something else coming for them. I just feel like there's a huge number of questions here. Obviously, was a very, very smart guy, valedictorian at his school, all these readings. I don't know what snapped, what happened. Maybe it's the back pain. There's just so much that we don't know. What I am grateful for is these eagle-eyed eyewitnesses who are willing to say, wait, I think that looks like the guy, and they were able to catch him.
They should get more than $10,000, don't you think, Judge?
Yeah, but you know, I used to offer Crime Stoppers. I used to offer money. It depends on how much money you get from people who want to contribute to Crime Stoppers. Yeah, yeah. It's not like you have a fund for that. It's like you have these fundraisers. Everybody come, we make arrests. But I got to tell you, I mean, Dana's right. He's a smart guy, but he's maybe a little too smart for his own good, because he started playing a game. And if that backpack was his and he had monopoly money in it, and if the ammunition said, you know, deny, depose, and whatever the third D was, you know, and he thinks he's so smart covering himself up. He's really not too smart. He's at the hostel signing in. He's flirting with a girl. He takes the mask off totally. But what I want to know is, everybody in America saw that picture. Everybody saw this, and then everybody saw more than that when he was in the cab. Why didn't somebody who's like related to him, went to school with him, he's got a cousin who's a delegate somewhere in, is it Maryland somewhere? You know, why aren't they saying something? But it's a good day for America. And I started by saying that Danny Penny was acquitted. This guy is arrested. But I really believe that he's too smart for his own good.
Do you know they didn't even have his name, even though they had his picture? They didn't have his name. That's crazy to me.
Oh, they told you they didn't have his name.
No, in the press conference they were asked. They asked the head of detectives, did you have his name? No, not until he was caught. So I thought that was crazy.
Really?
Yeah. Harold, how do you feel about this perverse thing? People celebrating. Well, healthcare companies and these fat cats deserve it.
They shouldn't do that. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. But I want to just say something to this. I think they may not have known his name because he wasn't in any system. So you just can't see a picture and know the name. Two, I think there's so many more questions today, and I think what the judge was saying too. How did he know that Brian Thompson was going to walk out of that where he walked out of at 6:40 in the morning? I know he probably knew that thing was at 8 a.m., but did he have more information about where he was coming from? Because it seemed to be so much there.
Well, he's a tech wizard. Maybe he could hack into this guy's personal account.
His calendar.
Or we don't know.
Whoa, it's a tech wizard. That's just wow. Boo-boo, you got to sit down and finish your food. Okay, put that in the trash and wash your hand. Put your sleeves up, okay? I love you. Yeah, it's like a tech wizard, this guy.
Know the answer. We're going to find that out. Two, maybe there were family members that saw it and shared some information. We still don't know all that they know. There's so many more questions here. I remember when the Uvalde thing, the tragedy in Uvalde happened in the school, and we sat on this set, and the judge and I both said there are going to be some awful things we're going to continue to learn about this. I just don't think this story is over yet. Obviously, to answer your question, we live in a really, really perverse and dangerous and awful place when people are willing to say the things that people are saying online. And then for this person at the Washington, I don't know the Taylor Lorenz, celebrating CEOs. Because what kind of society do we live in? I can understand you disagreeing with a company's policies, but that doesn't mean that you have the right, that anyone has the right to go and kill somebody. Now, this young
So that doesn't mean anybody, listen, doesn't mean anybody has the right to go on somebody, okay?
This young guy right here, if indeed he's the person and they prosecute him, I hope he gets a death penalty. I hope he's prosecuted to the fullest extent.
We don't have a death penalty in New York.
Well, maybe you can get him to get in there. You and Trump can figure something out, Judge.
I did it the first time in New York.
And finally, the last thing I would say is, I hope the only one person I know in this set who has real back pains is Jesse. I hope he is not pushed to make any efforts like this.
Don't make a ghost gun.
Make a gun
I
or
was
anything like that.
homicidal after my emergency back surgery. No, you're right. I wanted to kill Johnny, though. Right. Because he assembled my chair, which put me into the surgery. I was so wrong about this case. Last week they came on, I said, this guy's a pro.
Yeah.
Total professional, just by the way he acted.
Yeah.
And then it turns out he was so horny, he took his mask off to flirt with a barista. and he keeps the murder weapon on him, and he has a manifesto. It's almost like he wanted to get caught, because you go into a McDonald's, you go into a Starbucks, you know they have cameras. You got to go to get a hot dog on the side of the street if you're that hungry. Get a water bottle from the guys that sell these things. This guy was obviously looking for notoriety, and good, he's got it. Now, he's a prep school kid. He's politically connected in Maryland.
You think he's ready for prison?
I don't think anyone's ready, Brian. Maybe you are, Brian, in a different way. But this guy's not ready. He's way too soft. He's going to get annihilated.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. Okay, guys, here is a comment right here from Vineyard. Vineyard says, the more I look into it, the more I find out this guy is a hero and not an assassin. Telling y'all started this hero thing. Now you're going to have to back it up. Somebody reply Vineyard, because I'm out of it.
On the inside, and good. If he's not going to get the death penalty, maybe someone will do him justice behind bars. That's all I have to say about that.
You should stop there.
Right.
People say that a lot.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, we'll see if we find more about Luigi.
God, those Italians, Brian,
I know.
unbelievable.
You hurt my people. That's unbelievable. Like, the mob thing isn't hard enough to shake. Now we got a murderer 6 blocks away. All right, ahead. Donald Trump is making good on a pledge that Joe Biden failed to do. We're going to tell you what that is. Comma next.
Thank you one more time for tuning in. All right, here we go. CNN always has something to say when it comes to Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel.
Elect Trump's picks for key national security jobs just finished meetings on Capitol Hill with Republican lawmakers. These include nominees Pete Hegseth, Kash Patel, and Tulsi Gabbard. CNN's chief congressional correspondent Manu Raju is on Capitol Hill for us with a major update on Hegseth's nomination for Secretary of Defense. Tell us more, Manu.
Yeah, Senator Joni Ernst is considered one of the key, if not the most significant Republican votes in the entire Republican conference. Just met with Pete Hegseth, actually for a second time. They also had another meeting over the weekend, given some of her concerns dealing with Hegseth's past views opposing women in combat. Of course, Ernst was a combat veteran. Ernst has also been a victim of sexual assault, has called for changes to the practice, to how the Pentagon deals with those claims. And Hegseth, as we know, has been accused of sexual assault, something that he has denied. But after they have met, she indicated that she would support him through the process, she said. She sounded very positive about his confirmation prospects, although she's not quite a yes yet. You said supporting the process. It doesn't sound like you're a yes yet. Is that fair?
I'm supporting the process.
Are you confident with denials about those assault allegations? Do you believe those denials?
I'll refer you back to the statement.
Is pressure getting back home and primary politics playing into this?
We have been talking these same issues every meeting that we've had, and he had really thoughtful answers.
Now, Ernst has had a lot of pressure from folks who support Donald Trump to back this nomination, though she contended these were all part of discussions she was having with Hegseth, even as Ernst herself is facing re-election in a couple years. She did put out a statement, Jake, talking about her comments. She said that Hegseth had committed to a full audit of the Pentagon. She said he's going to select a senior official who will uphold the roles and value of our servicemen and women. And she also said, in talking about how she will support him through this process, she said, I look forward to a fair hearing based on truth, not anonymous sources, suggesting perhaps that those accusations of misconduct, accusations of excessive drinking and the like, she's not as perhaps concerned about that because some of these reports are based on anonymous sources, although, of course, he was accused of sexual assault in a police report. The accuser signed a non-disclosure agreement as well, but as you heard from her right there, I asked her if she believes those denials, and she said, I'll refer you back to my statement, Jake.
Donald Trump's pick to lead the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, appears to be closing in on winning the support of a key Republican senator regarded as a crucial swing vote. I want to bring in CNN's Manu Raju. He's up on Capitol Hill. Manu, what are you hearing? What are you learning?
Yeah, a lot of Republican senators are falling in line behind Donald Trump's more controversial picks, including Pete Hegseth to lead the Pentagon. One key senator, Joni Ernst, a pivotal swing vote, someone who has pointedly refused to say if she would back his nomination, had met with him for a second time. That second meeting occurred today. Afterwards, she told me and other reporters that she, quote, supports him going through the process. Would not say if she's a yes yet, but she sounded very positive as Hegseth made some key assurances to her going forward. Now, there are also others as well, including Senator Lindsey Graham, who just met with Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump's pick to lead the department, to be the director of national intelligence. Graham has a different view on issues like Ukraine and issues like Syria, but coming out of that meeting, Graham sounded positive about Gabbard's nomination.
We've had policy differences. I know her. I like her. You know, she wanted to stay in the JCPOA. I thought that was a mistake. But, you know, she'll be serving Trump.
And Wolf, also Kash Patel, who is Donald Trump's picked to be the new FBI director, as Donald Trump is essentially threatening to fire the existing FBI director, Christopher Wray, even though that's a rather unconventional and very controversial move to fire the existing FBI director. There are very few Republican senators who are pushing back.
What are you even saying? I mean, if Kash Patel is supposed to be the next director of the FBI, so what is the current director of FBI going to be doing? Assisting? Of course, he has to step down. What is this? Man, these folks.
In fact, a lot of them are falling in line behind Kash Patel, including the incoming Republican chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, told me earlier today that he is so essentially supportive of some of the things that Kash Patel assured him in their private meeting today, and others, including Senator Joni Ernst, who I mentioned there earlier, is also signaling she will back Kash Patel. So overall, a positive day for Donald Trump's picks on Capitol Hill, Wolf.
It's wild, man. It is wild. Well, y'all want us to keep going? We can keep going if y'all want to keep going. Or we could put it. All right, let's see. This looks like a good one. But Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, RFK. The Republicans need to do their due diligence, check them out. If there's nothing, bad in their background, if there's nothing discriminating in their background, or incriminating rather, if there's nothing incriminating in their background, then, they should be confirmed and let them do what they do.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Trey Gowdy, and it's Sunday night in America. We're about halfway between Donald Trump winning office and taking office. He's hit the ground running with cabinet nominations as we watch the Constitution spring to life with that short, impactful phrase, advice and consent. Some nominees like Marco Rubio, Pam Bondi, and John Lee Ratcliffe have won near universal praise. One nominee quit because he did not have the votes. Other nominees are making real progress, while work may remain for some others. So where's the line between deference and acquiescence? What due process are nominees entitled to? Where's the line between good enough and not qualified? Joining us is the incoming Senate Budget Chair, Lindsey Graham, from the great state of South Carolina. Chairman, where is that line between showing deference to a president and acquiescence and just rolling over with next to no vetting? Where's that line?
Wherever any senator wants to draw that line. Constitutionally, there is no partisanship. But the honest answer is up to every senator. But the Constitution is not a partisan document, as you know. It requires the Senate to give advice and consent. Here's the line for Lindsey Graham. I presume that to support cabinet picks by every president, not just Democrat, Republican presidents, but every president, unless I have a good reason not to. So I look at qualifications, but if you look at my record, I vote for almost everybody, because I don't look at it as to whether or not I would have picked this person. It's whether or not the person picked meets basic qualifications. I'm not trying to overturn the election by saying I'm not going to vote for a person that I wouldn't have picked, whether you be Republican or Democrat. Now, you owe President Trump about $5 million in advertising. Today on Meet the Press, he sung your praises about helping our friend Kash Patel. I talked to President Trump on the phone before I came on the show. You've gone to bat for Kash. Let me tell you where the line is for me with Kash Patel. You drew it. I think he's very qualified. I think he's been beat up unfairly. Remember the FBI, where Comey signed warrants based on false information, where an FBI lawyer sent false information to the FISA court and actually got prosecuted. Remember the FBI that suppressed a Hunter laptop and said it wasn't real when it was right before the election? Well, that FBI needs to go. We need to get back to the FBI that me and you admire and grew up with, an FBI that's fighting crime, protecting Americans, not a political weapon. I think Kash Patel is the right guy. Your voice matters. I've had 3 senators tell me that when you spoke up for Kash, it mattered, and you know him well. So that's how the process works. People like you vouching for someone like Kash Patel. President Trump has put together a very good team. Marco Rubio, our friend, John Ratcliffe, Mike Waltz is awesome. We got a good team. Pam Bundy's going to sail through. Kash is going to make it. Pete Hegseth's been a friend for a long time. He's going to have to answer some questions, but we're going to not knock him out because of anonymous reporting. You got to, swear under oath you saw things, then we'll evaluate the credibility of testimony like we did with Kavanaugh. But he's got a good team, and I want to thank you for talking about Kash Patel in a way the media will never talk about.
Well, I knew something must have happened because my mom sent me a text that I was invited to Christmas after all. So apparently I wasn't invited until the president said something about me this morning. You've been through, look, Kash Patel's the most unfairly maligned person I think I've ever worked with. So I promise you he's going to be a lot more fair to his opponents than they ever were to him. You've been through some really tough hearings before. What should we expect these hearings to be like? I mean, you were right in the middle of Kavanaugh. Yeah. You could argue Kavanaugh wouldn't have survived if it weren't for you. What should the nominees expect during these hearings?
Respect. They should expect to be treated respectfully, that their lives will not be turned upside down based on BS, based on rumor and hearsay and innuendo. Kavanaugh had 5 accusations. 3 were absolutely made up false. These accusations against Pete Hegseth and others are anonymous. People who have to come forward, raise their right hand, and we'll evaluate what they say. But I start this process with a presumption I'm going to support presidential nominees because they won the election and they deserve their team if they're qualified.
You and I are both old trial lawyers. This phrase due process leaps to mind. In the little bit of time we have left, how do you view due process when we're outside the courtroom but inside a Senate hearing room?
Well, what happened to Kavanaugh was an outrage. People lied about him. They withheld information to the very end to extend the hearing to require another FBI investigation. They knew about the allegations. The Democrats for months had never let him confront him with it. Here's his side of the story. Due process is being able to confront your accusers and making sure that what's happening to you is not politically motivated. It's based on what you did. So I'm there to make sure our nominees are not treated like Kavanaugh. And I'm also there to make sure we get to the truth. So the bottom line here is President Trump's put together a good team. We're going to try to get them through as quick as we can. The world is falling apart. I am so glad he's going to be our president soon. He's done more in 3 weeks to straighten out the Mideast in terms of getting the hostages out than Biden's done in 4 years. And to everybody in Syria, you better watch it. Donald Trump is coming.
Well, do me a favor, tell him thank you for whatever he said about me this morning, and it got me invited to my mom's house for Christmas. Otherwise, I was going to have to.
That's funny. Trump is coming, man. Everybody's wondering and running helter-skelter. What are we going to do? This OG is coming back. The legendary OG's coming back, yo. We're gonna have to find somewhere to hide because it's coming back. That's the kind of leader you want, a leader that cannot be pushed to the side, unpredictable. Yeah, he's a legend. Okay, so Biden gave a remark today. At the White House Tribal Nations Summit. Let's listen to our president, President Joe Biden.
So if you'll bear with us for a moment before the president gives his remarks, Assistant Secretary Nuland and I wanted to acknowledge the wonderful leadership by President Biden. He has been a champion for Indian country over these past 4 years, and I felt the best way for us to acknowledge that was with a blanket. This is an 8th generation blanket from a tribally owned business, and I've had it embroidered. Assistant Secretary. It says Joe Biden, champion for Indian country, 2021 to 2024. I think they want us to look over there. We're all over there. Yes, but let's take this off. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
I could have used that blanket when I was lighting that Christmas tree. Both of us were freezing, Secretary. Thank you, Secretary Holland. This is Secretary Nuland. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, it's the honor of my life to be a partner of the tribes throughout my presidency. I'm going to cherish this moment. You know, I was raised by a guy politically when I got here as a 29-year-old kid as a senator. I was raised by a guy named Danny Inouye. And I once used the phrase, tribe said, no, Joe, nations, nations. I want to thank Secretary Howland for the introduction and for your historic leadership of the Department of Interior. And this has been historic. It's been historic. I've worked with a lot of cabinet secretaries. I've appointed a bunch over my 500-year career. But I tell you what, I've never met with a cabinet secretary more devoted to their obligation, the job she's taken on. I really mean it. And thanks to all the tribal leaders who traveled across the country representing your tribal nations. Folks, I came to office and I relaunched the White House Tribal Nations Summit to bring us all together again. Talk about the needs of your communities, to set goals, to listen, because I recognize that respect is the core of nation-to-nation relationships. We have a lot to be proud of, I think. We've gotten a lot done. From day one, my administration, we've worked to include indigenous voices in everything we do. Not only the first Native American cabinet secretary in history, but more than 80 Native Americans now serve in senior roles across my administration. I mean this sincerely. With their help, we've shaped our approach to Indian country with respect and matched our words with action. I'm proud to have reestablished the White House Council on Native American Affairs and taken historic steps to improve tribal consultation. For example, you shared with me that too many federal programs treat tribes like they're subsidiaries of the government, like cities or counties, rather than tribal nations. Nations, not subsidiaries. That's who you are, you're nations. So, at last year's summit, I signed a groundbreaking executive order to recognize that you should be treated as tribal nations with respect to your decision-making power. That executive order requires federal agencies to streamline grant applications, to co-manage federal programs, to eliminate heavy-handed reporting requirements. I'm trying to do that across the board, by the way. We're also investing in a historic $45 billion directly into Indian country. More is needed, but it's more than ever happened before. This includes helping tribal communities get through the pandemic with vaccines and arms and checks in pockets. We're helping tribes build new roads, bridges, deliver affordable, high-speed internet, and clean water across tribal communities. As a nation, we're making the biggest investment ever in fighting climate change, anywhere in the history of the world, which helps tribal communities to lead in transition to clean energy and ease the impact of droughts and wildfires and rising sea levels that threaten native lives and precious homelands. I secured the first ever advanced funding for the Indian Health Service. Where I come from, we call that a big deal. Indian Health Service, the tribal hospitals can plan ahead, order supplies, hire doctors, knowing the money will be there, not having to wonder. All told, in 4 years, we've created 200,000 jobs for Native Americans, a record low unemployment for Native communities. There's been an historic $8 billion increase in federal contracts awarded to Native businesses. And I'm proud, that's important, I think. I'm proud to have helped cut child poverty in tribal communities by more than 1/3 and more to do. The folks, at the same time, we're also doing what we should have done a long time ago, preserving ancestral tribal homelands. It really is important. It really is important. One example is restoring salmon fishing, which historically has been very important to Native communities. You know, I think it's very important that we memorialize Native culture and history by restoring and designating multiple national monuments that honor tribal nations and protect their homelands. From Bears Ears to Spirit Mountain, which comprise nearly 2 million acres combined, will be preserved in perpetuity forever, ever, ever. I remember a young woman came up to me, a young girl comes to me and said, I bent down, she said, "Can I talk to you?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Can you take care of Bears Ears?" I said, "I beg your pardon? Can you take care of Bears Ears?" I thought she wanted me to capture a bear, you know. And when we signed the bill, I gave her the pen. Look, it's sacred. It's magnificent. And this year, my administration designated the first Native Marine Sanctuary proposed by indigenous communities, which is off the coast of California, which occupies 4,500 square miles. That's off limits. You know, these efforts are totally consistent with my commitment when I came to office to preserve 30% of all America's lands and waters permanently by the year 2030. And we're well on our way because of the help you've given me. And we're doing all this with respect for the stewardship practices that tribes developed over the centuries, known as indigenous knowledge. I believe tribes should have a say in how these sacred lands are managed. To this day, they should have a say. And last year alone, we doubled the number of co-stewardship agreements, totaling 400 with tribal nations. All of this is a stark cry from the failed policies of the past. In October, I saw many of you in Arizona. It's a day I'll never forget. On behalf of the American people, I felt it was really important for a President of the United States to stand up and right a wrong that had been ignored for a long time and apologize for the We're not about erasing history, we're about recognizing history, the good, bad, and the ugly. I apologize for the federal Indian boarding school era, a dark chapter that spanned 150 years from the 1960, in which entire generations of Native children were literally stolen from their families and tribes and sent away to boarding school. The official policy in the federal government designed to sever ties between children and their tribal families, their language, and their culture. Today, we act to continue that healing process. And I'm proud to announce we're establishing the historic Carlisle Indian Industrial School in Pennsylvania as a new national monument. So I want everyone to know. I don't want people forgetting 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, pretend it didn't happen. The Carlisle Indian School was the first off-reservation federal Indian boarding school for Native children that were taken to, the first one. About 7,800 children from more than 140 tribes were sent to Carlisle, stolen from their families, their tribes, and their homelands. It was wrong. In making the Carlisle Indian School a national monument, we make clear that what great nations do. We don't erase history. We acknowledge it, we learn from it, and we remember so we never repeat it again. We remember so we can heal. That's the purpose of memory. Now, part of the tragedy of Indian boarding schools is that they deliberately tried to erase the culture of tribes by ensuring that children lost their language and their traditions. That's why the next chapter of healing requires revitalizing native languages. My wife, Jill, to her, this is something our First Lady cares deeply about. She's an educator. In her first trip with Secretary Howland, she visited the language immersion program of the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma. Jill saw Native children light up, as they recited words their ancestors once spoke. Over 3/4 of the remaining native languages are in danger of being lost forever. That's why today my administration is moving ahead on a 10-year plan to revive native languages in a serious effort. It's a vision that works with tribes and support teachers, schools, communities, organizations in order to save native language from disappearing. This matters. It's part of our heritage. It's part of who we are as a nation. It's how we got to be who we are. We also heard loud and clear that public safety is a top concern of Native communities. That's why when I was a vice president, when we reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act, which is my daughter says I wrote with my own paw. I wrote it 30 years ago, one of the proudest things I ever did. We also reaffirmed tribal sovereignty and expanded tribal jurisdiction to cover cases where outside predators harm members of Indian nations in Indian country and decided there. I also signed an executive order to improve public safety and criminal justice to address the crisis of missing or murdered Indigenous people. These efforts, and all of our efforts, are a matter of restoring dignity that was taken away from tribal nations. Dignity. My dad used to say, Joey, and I mean it sincerely, everyone is entitled to be treated with dignity. A word most often used in my family by my dad. Dignity. That's the foundation of our nation-to-nation partnership. Let me close with this. This is my final White House Tribal Nation Summit as your president. It's been an overwhelming honor, I mean it sincerely, an honor of a lifetime to usher in a new era of tribal sovereignty and self-determination. A new era grounded in dignity and respect that I've seen and experienced in many ways. In October, I had the honor to bestow one of our nation's highest medals, the National Medal of Humanities, on Joy Harjo, the first Native American to serve this nation as Poet Laureate. She once wrote, and I quote, "You are a story fed by generations. You carry songs of grief, triumph, and loss. Feel their power as they ascend with you. As you walk, run swiftly, even fly, into infinite possibilities. End of quote. To all the tribal nations, I say thank you, and I mean it sincerely. Thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your trust in me. But most of all, thank you for your friendship. And always believing, as I do, that the possibilities of our nation are limitless. I was once asked when I spent more time with Xi Jinping of China than any other world leader has, over 108 hours alone with him. I was on the Tibetan Plateau with him in China. And I looked at me and said, "Can you define America for me?" And this was on the record. I said, "Yes,
There we go.
one word." He looked at me through a translator.
One
I said,
word.
Possibility.
One word. Don't. One word. In one word. Don't.
And this was on the record. I said, "Yes, one word." He looked at me through a translator. I said, "Possibilities." In America, we believe anything is possible if we do it together. And that's what we've done. Damn it, we're going to continue doing it. Thank you.
Joe definitely knows how to talk. That's something I got to give him. He knows how to persuade a politician. He's been doing this for decades, okay? So he knows how to speak politically correct, which Trump doesn't. Just like this video I'm about to play y'all right now. Biden speaks politically correct, and Trump is the total opposite. Check this out.
Last week, he's a weirdo, Mark Zuckerberg came to the White House, kissed my ass. Kissed my ass. Sir, I'd love to have dinner. Sir, I'd love to have dinner. I'd love to bring my lovely wife. All right, Mark, come on in. Sir, you're #1 on Facebook. I'd like to congratulate you. Oh, thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate it. Weirdo Mark Zuckerberg confessed that in 2020, the FBI went to Facebook and the media and gave them the false narrative that the Hunter Biden laptop from hell was Russian disinformation, even though they knew that was not true. Last
Yo, this man right here, bro. This man right here, bro. Oh, God. This man right here. He's just a comedian, bro. He's like, kiss my ass. Oh, God.
All right, folks, breaking news. Police now have taken into custody a 26-year-old man named Luigi Mangione in connection to the killing of United Healthcare CEO. Now, they are calling him a suspect. In fact, the police say, though, that he had a similar gun to the one that was used in the killing of Brian Thompson. Also, authorities say that they found writings critical of the insurance industry along with a fake ID. I'm going to bring in now a special guest with us today, Andy Posner. Andy, former CEO of CK in restaurants and other businesses out there. I just want to get your thoughts on this because this has been sort of a shot across the bow of corporate America. There's a lot of different explanations and conversation, but one thing that feels different right now is that there could be a target on the back of corporate executives. Just your thoughts on this in general.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and there has been some public reaction in favor of the shooter, which is terrible to see. This was a heinous act.
Right.
There's no way it should ever be praised, or people should be laughing about it. But it's certainly not the fault of the CEO, and it would have been better if he had more protection. But I think CEOs need to get out and talk about the issues that they're facing. This CEO is getting criticized for low-quality, high-cost health care, and that's not his fault. It's the fault of Obamacare and regulations that go along with Obamacare. And I think if CEOs were more willing to talk, whether it's the government that they're afraid of or these large investment firms like BlackRock or State Street or Vanguard, CEOs need to get out and speak and explain to the public what the problems that they're facing and why they're seeing what they're seeing. In this case, United Healthcare is not responsible for the
Well, he would have had some. I mean, within their industry, and a lot of things are floating around, but I did see one chart that showed their rate of rejection, their rate of rejecting insurance claims was twice the industry average. So, it would be interesting to see a CEO go before the public and say, hey, this is why 30-some-odd% of people we're rejecting them, whereas the industry average is 17 and some of our competitors are lower than that. That's a tough thing to do, but maybe some sort of articulation on how business works, because we are in an environment where people feel that business is letting them down.
Yeah, CEOs need to get out there and speak. I can't explain why his numbers are like that, but he certainly could. I mean, I'm sure he's got good reasons. He's not out there trying to produce a high-cost, low-quality product. In fact, he's trying to do the opposite. So I think if CEOs would get out and explain more what they're facing, the issues they're facing, and help the American people understand why things are the way they are, instead of being so intimidated by the government or these large financial firms.
Right.
I think that if CEOs got out and spoke, I think that it would calm things down quite a bit.
Mark Andreessen posted over the weekend a passage from the New Yorker, and it says, I was at a show in Midtown Manhattan on Thursday night, and when the comedians on stage cracked a joke about the shooter, the entire place erupted in cheers. So we know about this sort of anti-hero thing, whether you talk about Ma Barker, Bonnie and Clyde, or whatever, but it does feel like there are periods in our society where even violence is cheered when it's against people who are seen ultimately corrupt. How does that, other than the CEOs, are there other folks who should be a part of the solution to, hey, listen, this is not the way to go, or what do you make of it because a zeitgeist sort of thing?
Well, I think we need, in a lot of areas in this country right now, we need the politics to calm down. I think politicians could go a long way towards helping explain what the issues businesses are facing are and why consumers face these problems. There are also a lot of people that speak publicly on TV stations like we're doing, or on networks like we're doing right now, need to go through these issues and explain to people what the real problems are. There's no way in the world that a murder like this, a heinous act like this, should be laughed at or cheered anywhere. And I think people do it because they really think these people are evil, and they really don't understand what's going on, particularly with healthcare. Look, what do you and I know? If you put the government into anything, the quality will go down and the price will go up. You put the private sector into anything, and what happens? Competition, quality goes up, price goes down. So when you take Obamacare and this regulatory framework and you impose it on the health insurance, on the medical sector, you're going to get higher costs and lower prices.
It certainly wasn't what people were promised back then, right? It certainly wasn't.
You could, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Everybody that's got pre-existing conditions is going to be covered, and this is going to make things cheaper. Well, they just had a Gallup poll that came out and said, while 62% of Americans judge their health care as fair or good in 2009, today that number is 44%. So Obamacare was a lie on everything. All of those things were untrue. It is now more expensive, and the care is worse.
Andy, I want to switch gears here because this notion of miscommunication or misinterpreting the economy, how Main Street, Wall Street, and the political realms have gotten it all wrong, I think a lot of it comes back to the way we look at data and the way, to your point, media articulates this. In fact, a lot of folks are worried about how tariffs will impact our economy, how deporting illegal immigrants will impact our economy. We had a jobs report on Friday. We've got Madison here with us. She's going to walk through where we really are with this stuff, not the hype, but the actual facts. And then I want to come back with Andy and ask him the questions. Madison, lay it out for us.
You got it, Charles. So we're going to start first with that Wall Street. Large corporations, they're expressing concerns over issues in the upcoming administration, specifically focusing on tariffs. A lot of attention being paid there. And when you look at that, you see that this has been a concern that has followed Trump. So right after his election in 2015, we saw a small increase in concerns around tariffs, a peak in 2018. And then during the Biden years, corporate concerns on tariffs, they've been lower, but now they are re-emerging. Over the last few years, though, when you take a look at other issues, like you mentioned, immigration, foreign-born workers have made up the change in the labor force. These workers also almost got all the net new jobs as well. Overall, we see some good news for companies. You look at those companies, they're no longer screaming about labor shortages. That has been a sharp decline there. Management teams discussing labor costs as well. we're also seeing a decline. And getting back to that jobs report, there was little change in the number of people who were not actively looking for a job. So that's talking about discouraged workers or long-term unemployed workers. In contrast, the measure that includes both workers with part-time jobs for economic reasons and discouraged workers, that slightly increased to 7.8%. The labor force participation rate, which indicates the percentage of working age individuals who are employed or actively seeking work, that fell slightly to 62.5%. On Friday, we learned 193,000 Americans left the labor forces in November. And now that major spike in year-to-year growth in employment population ratio, that's prime-age workers 25 to 54, it's turning negative, and the ratio may have peaked. Now, when that in mind, when critics say that America should look the other way in terms of illegal immigration because we need workers, there could be a better solution. Get the millions of folks, particularly prime-aged men, back into the labor force. Charles?
Madison, thanks a lot. Andy, you're back with us. Want to let the audience know you've just written a book, A Tyranny for, and you slashed out good of its victims, talking about, of course, this ESG movement and those things. And yes. In your introduction, you share a quote, and I just want to read it to the audience.
Does anybody know anything about the ESG movement for companies? Let me know in the chat. Do you know anything about the ESG movement? Because there's DEI and there's ESG, okay?
The issue today is the same as it's been throughout all history, whether man shall be allowed to govern himself or be ruled by a small elite. That was Thomas Jefferson, but it's appropriate today as it was then. And we are seeing around the world where there's massive pushback against these elites, but they're not going to let go of power right away.
No, all they're doing is dropping the acronym. They won't call it ESG anymore, but they'll still pursue the same policies. And you can see that BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, if you read their proxy voting guidance, how they're going to vote the shares they hold, they're still promoting, these radical environmental policies, these DEI policies. So they may not use the acronym, but it's socialism in sheep's clothing. They're just kind of backing off what they say publicly.
What do they get out of it? Is it greater control for them? I mean,
So ESG is environmental, social, and governance, and DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. Okay, so ESG is basically, companies that make sure that their policies support the environment, social, and of course support the government. But ESG was like the first one before DEI even came along. But now DEI is like the champion.
They have trillions and trillions of dollars on the management. They own everything. If it moves, they'll buy into it, right? Trailer parks, we want a piece of it. Now they're buying into HVACs. I mean, if there's cash flow, they want a piece of the action. Is it to put a moat around their business and no one else is encouraged? I mean, what do they get out of this?
So these are obviously massive, initially passive investment firms,
right,
which meant they're supposed to invest in companies, let the CEOs run them, and you buy a group of companies like the S&P 500, right, and you expect them to profit. Around 2018, Larry Fink kind of changed that. He said, now we're going to come in and we're going to tell these companies what to do. We're going to tell you what to do on the environment. We're going to tell you what to do on these DEI issues, on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And and you ended up with huge votes against the directors of these various companies by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard for not abiding by the policies they wanted. So it really is a power play. They really are exerting their power, not to implement policies that we normally associate with a democracy. We normally say, well, the people should vote whether or not we have these environmental policies, for example. Well, they're saying we don't need that. We're going to skip all that. We're just going to tell you what to do.
Before I let you go, and I'm out of time to kind of screaming at me.
I still want to talk about tariffs and
labor. So let's just the labor participation part, because
that's huge.
We have millions of men who are out of this labor force, working age men, and they're not counted. They're not in the U3 number.
Nope.
And when I hear people saying the jobs number is great, I just want to scream. I do normally scream. It can't be great with 8 million people out of the labor force. Why don't we train them up and close the border? It seems like a pretty easy 1-2 punch.
It is an easy 1-2 punch. What people don't understand is if you have a certain number of jobs, let's say you have 1 million jobs, and you've got 1.2 million people in the labor force, then just 200,000 are looking for jobs. If there's fewer people in the labor force, say there's 1,050,000 people in the labor force, then the unemployment rate is very low, but you don't have any more
But you
jobs.
still have 300,000 people who need to eat, shelter, food,
and they're walking
around
just not in the labor force.
They're discouraged. I mean, they're still the fabric of our nation. Why don't we train them up, and so that we can actually have an orderly border? We want migration. The country's building immigration. We're all proud of that. No one's against that.
Nope.
But why don't we
Legal
help the average
immigration.
American out there? I don't get that part.
Well, you are absolutely right, and I think President Trump was elected to implement that agenda, and I think we're going to see it.
So I hope corporations stop belly aching about it, and the economists, and let's see what happens. I believe it's going to be great, Andy.
Remember, just one more thing real quick. You saw that big surge in concerns about tariffs. Inflation under Trump, what was it? Under 2%, 1.4%? Well, now it's not as high as it was even back then. So let's not panic. He knows what he's doing. Let's give him a chance to do it.
That's the C-suite and the media and some economists. That ain't the stock market. The stock market's celebrating.
We can talk all day here.
Well, there you have it, guys. Some people support, some people don't support. Just the way of life, man. Just the way of life. But it's something everybody can support. It's something everybody would disagree on, which is if the prices are high, everybody knows. For example, if your electricity bill is high, which it has gone up, okay? It has gone all the way up. We used to pay like $75, now it's like $240. Wow.
Let's bring in Paul Morrow, retired NYPD inspector and a Fox News contributor, and James R. Fitzgerald, retired FBI supervisory special agent and co-host of the Cold Red podcast. Great to have both of you with us today. Paul, let me start with you. Your thoughts on the latest developments in
Nathan, what you're proposing is not going to work. I mean, what do you mean take out all the insurance company in America, pay for nothing? How do you think the economy is going to thrive that way? Walter says inflation, G. Yeah, for sure, I know inflation. Eric says average Joe accountability is scary when you deserve it. Pam Holmes says that no, that wasn't Trump's economy. He wasn't a politician.
this case?
Well, let me say two things. First of all, kudos to that citizen who, off of that photo, which was not great, an above photo, that's always the case with these surveillance photos from video, remote video. They're at an angle where you don't get great shots. Off of that shot, this person looked at this person and said, you know what, this individual looks like who everybody's looking for. And when you couple that with the fact that the reporting was he's supposed to be in Atlanta, the fact that this person in Altoona made him is fairly amazing. The other thing I would just mention real quickly is, okay, that part is down, assuming this is him, and it's looking pretty good. But now something else begins, and there's the prosecution, there's the investigation, there's the discovery. The discovery laws in New York City these days, in New York State, are draconian on the prosecution. They got to gather a ton of stuff. You have the out-of-state issues here. They're going to have to gather all that. You got the extradition. So now it's another battle, and that's what that the police are going to be concentrating on now as they go forward.
James Fitzgerald, let me bring you in, former FBI profiler. We are learning some bits and pieces about the person who is.
Shout out to Mermaid Hunter. He's saying a mermaid. Mermaid. So mermaid says different book bag and different hoodie. So what you're saying here is that's a different person. Ooh. Shout out to Jessica Smithers. Thank you. Nancy F says France for the century of hardship. Research more. Alberto CRXR. Where have you been, bro? You can tell it's somebody definitely in by the mask. Yeah, it's Smile. That's definitely the dude right there.
Is the suspect in this case. That is his status at this point. There are other outlets, including the New York Post, which is related, our sister publication, that is saying that he was a valedictorian at his high school, a private boys' school in the Baltimore area. Your thoughts on the profile of this young man?
Well, it's only a profile when it's an unknown subject. Once we have someone identified, now they're going to be doing a behavioral assessment. If the shooter has been deceased himself, they'd call it a psychological autopsy. But now they're going to do this behavioral assessment, this psychological assessment of just what made this person tick, what made him as mission-oriented as he was to have devoted 10 days, probably more, directly involved in the killing of Mr. Thompson of United Healthcare. So they're going to try to find everything going back to his prep school days, his valedictorian days, any type of social media he was involved in, certainly the web searches he's conducted, and that's going to put a total picture of this person together. And this will be evidentiary that can be entered into, a trial at some point. Defense will always fight these things, but these types of issues that suggest motivation and rationale for doing this would certainly be important. Doesn't surprise me either that this guy was somehow a fan of the Unabomber, Ted.
Okay, guys, put it in the chat right now. Do you support what this guy did, or you do not support? I want to know, okay? Because everybody had an opinion when it was Danielle Penny and Jordan Needley. So now that we have this guy, what do you guys think? Do you think what he did was nice or bad, or he should face the full extent of the law? Some people are saying the death penalty, but look, I won't be the one to say that, but I want you guys to say it in the chat right now. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Frightful said, look, I support this dude, dog. So you support this guy. Support. Damn. Shout out to Jessica. She said, I love the accent. If I had a social media platform, I would have DM'd you. True story. Okay, Jessica, thank you. Eric says free him. Damn. So y'all support this guy? Zyro says murder. Absolutely not. The Unabomber reference is another part C. No, it's primitive action. Free him. So this cat. Yeah, so this cat said nah. Yeah, you better know so this cat ain't going for all that. Yeah, she ain't going for all that. So this cat ain't going for all that. Yeah.
Brzezinski, and he has his mini manifesto of 3 pages.
So basically, at least 75% of the chat support this dude. Now I see where we are. Now I know. Okay. Now I know for a fact where we are morally. I get it.
We'll see if there's as much evidence in there as there was in the 56-page manifesto of the Unabomber, but I'm sure there'll be valuable evidence they can use against him in a court of law.
Yeah. Paul, what strikes me is, when I saw his face, and you can see it more clearly if we have the picture of him smiling at the woman who was, there he is, big smile on his face. And I thought when I saw this picture, Paul, that he's a young man, he's smiling in this photo. I thought anyone in his family, they know that that's him as soon as they see this photo. He went to, if these reports are correct, a prestigious prep school, that's all over social media. All of those people, his professors, they also, if they saw this picture, Paul, had to have been able to identify this young man. Do we know whether or not the investigators on this case had been reached out to by people who said, that's him? They couldn't tell where he was at that point, but they identified him.
Yeah, I have not heard that. That doesn't appear to be public. One of the things I would go back to relative to that question is the Boston Marathon bombing with the Tsarnaev brothers. We had a similar circumstance.
Exactly.
4 days, we were killing ourselves looking all over social media for who they were. And then we find out later, all his dorm mates knew that Joe Tsarnaev was probably that guy, but they couldn't believe it of him. Yeah. And everybody was afraid to accuse erroneously. So there is a little bit of a downward pressure on it. But I will say this. Think about the needle in a haystack work the PD did here. This guy comes into the city. He had a lot of planning. Apparently, according to some reporting that's out, he locked down his electronics. They're going to have a hard time getting into his phone, et cetera. But he took all these precautions. He came in. Apparently, he's surveilled. And yet they found him within a couple of days at that youth hostel, got that photo. That really is what broke this.
Yes.
So kudos to them. Kudos to this woman at the McDonald's, and kudos to the Altoona PD, who went out and took the call seriously. That would have been a very easy call to be a little dismissive of. They took her seriously. They went out. They eyeballed him. You know, they see the eyebrows, which it's almost like, you know, Koberger, the accused in Idaho. The eyebrows here are distinctive, and they put it together.
Yeah, no, it's extraordinary. We knew that he took a bus out of Upper Manhattan and that it stopped a number of places along the way, that the route was headed to Atlanta. So there was a big effort in Atlanta, but we also knew that it was making certain stops along the way. And apparently he got off in Pennsylvania, if all of this police work adds up. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. James Fitzgerald, Paul Morrow, great to see you both. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy, Genesis. Yes, sir. Okay, should we keep going or call it a day? Yes, keep going. I answered myself.
Some very good news tonight. I can report that all hope is not lost in New York. Daniel Penny acquitted today in a criminal case that never should have been brought by a DA's office that has repeatedly failed to put the safety of New Yorkers ahead.
I need to put this poll up too. So after this poll, we're gonna do the next poll. So do you support Luigi, United Healthcare serial killer? People says so. 55% of the chat says yes. 45% says no. Change the question to the shooter instead of the shooter. Okay, so you guys support Luigi. All right. And this poll. This is the last one right here. All right, here we go. Here we go. Who is Penny? Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think you guys know too much about this case. Danielle Penny. Fred says, who is Penny? Penny is Danielle Penny. This is Penny Riot, the guy on the floor. So wait, you guys don't know anything about Danielle Penny? How many people knows anything about Penny? If you know stuff about Penny, put it in the chat, let me know. So I could adjust this poll. Because we have what? I gotta use support da. I mean, if you support Penny, just say hell yeah. If you don't, no, man. Doris says Penny is an ex-Marine. Yeah, he is. So, what is that? Please, y'all just put just make this 50-50, okay? Do you support Penny in this subway situation? If y'all can make this 50-50, I know for a fact we still got some good conscience and heart in this chat. Okay. Cause who are we? Average Joe really supports me when it comes to Daniel Penny's issue, but he doesn't want to say it because listen to this guy. Average Joe says, "What rules does one need to follow to take justice into their own hands? Just that it's not be to you." Average really supports me when it comes to Daniel Penny and Jordan Neely, but he's just conflicted. Okay. Average Joe supports me, but he's just conflicted, y'all. BTK probably support me too, but they just conflicted because they don't want to look. They don't want to look like they say, "Oh yeah, look, they support me." I know for a fact, but they ain't gonna speak it out loud. But okay, but let's keep going.
Head of politics. Now, after Penny used a chokehold to restrain menacing lunatic Jordan Neely on a subway car in May 2023, which led to his death, Alvin Bragg's office charged him with second-degree manslaughter. Now, the defendant with no criminal record, a proud Marine vet who stood up when no one else would, gets charged? Yeah. But on Friday, the jury announced it was deadlocked. So, at the behest of Bragg's office, Judge Maxwell T. Wiley directed them to...
Yes, this is what I like to read. Sassafras 8080. I'm sorry if that's not how to pronounce your name. I've got a very deep accent, but yeah, Sassafras says, "What would you have done if someone has," I guess you wanted to say, if someone was a threat to your family in a confined area? I've been on the subway with my family in New York, and there are people dancing on the subway, going crazy in your face, saying all type of trash. But this is the subway in New York. People say total BS. Okay, people say total BS. That's what they do on the subway. Homeless people literally shelter themselves in the subway, especially when it's cold. They stay in there. They just ride a train back and forth so they can have somewhere to kind of like get warmth. Okay, so Sassafras says that's right. I'm glad I pronounced your name right. So when you say in a confined space, what would I have done? It wasn't just me and my family on the subway. If that was the case, it was a lot of people on the subway. This person is out here making threat. There's so many ways to de-escalate than, put him on a chokehold for as long as you can while two other people disarm him. We're not going to go back and forth on this, okay? I already told you my opinion. I don't support Daniel Penny. I think he should pay a fine. However, he shouldn't go to jail, okay? That's my decision. I could never support taking another man's life, especially when the person is homeless, on drugs, angry and hungry. I mean, there are other ways to de-escalate, especially when it's 3-on-1. And the government should have done their job, which is house this guy. Put him somewhere he can get himself better. He can get back to his mental state and become a useful citizen in the United States. But of course, they let it get here. And then his parents, the people that I actually blame in this case are his family, his parent. Because why would you want to come out now? You want to come out now talking about racial situation when your son, your family member, your relation was homeless on the goddamn subway? You should be ashamed of yourself, and you shouldn't be coming out here talking about nothing. The family shouldn't be coming out talking about nothing because you let your son, as a father, okay, I got a 5-year-old daughter. As a father, it's my responsibility to sacrifice literally my life for my child. So when your child is homeless on the subway, what are you doing, Pops? What are you doing, Pops? You ain't finna let your son be on the subway homeless, and then you want to come out now that somebody on the subway who claim he's threatening their life, take their life. Now you want to come out. Now you know you got a son. And that's the thing, fathers, I can never blame moms because I was brought up by a single mom because I know how hard women try. But me, I would always blame the father. Never leave your child, ever. Like, I don't care what you have to go through. If you have a child, you better stay or take your child. Don't leave your child. You better stay or take them. One of the two. Never leave. This is for fathers, okay? This is my opinion. I blame his family for letting that man stay on the subway without a home, okay? I blame the family for letting that guy stay on the subway without a home and letting people say it's okay. Okay, because if he had had shelter over his head, they would have probably seen he's on drug and, get him help. But it is what it is.
Come back after the weekend to consider the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. Outrageous. But the jury rejected that as well. If anyone is guilty of criminal negligence here, it's the folks like Alvin Bragg and his assistant DA, Daphne Yoran, whose virtue signaling...
Nah, y'all blaming the wrong people. Braggs is just literally doing his job, as far as I'm concerned. Braggs, of course, I don't like Bragg because, of course, he became the DA in New York solely based on the fact that he's going to take down Trump. So I don't like Bragg. I don't F with Bragg, but he's only doing his job. The parents and the family is what y'all need to be talking about. Why would he be homeless on drugs on the subway? He was a dancer. He used to entertain people on the train. So y'all need to blame the family.
And soft on crime approach have caused enormous pain and suffering to the everyday New Yorkers whose lives matter too. Bragg, of course, has been humiliated after wasting millions of taxpayer dollars in his crazed criminal prosecution against Donald Trump before, of course, the election night victory. He released a statement today saying he respects the jury's decision, but noted, unfortunately, over the duration of this trial, talented career prosecutors and their family members were besieged with hate and threats on social media, by phone, over email. Simply put, this is unacceptable. Yes, I agree with him. It is completely unacceptable. No one should be threatened.
This right here, look, bro. I can never go along with this. Now, hope in New York, and the face of hope in New York is Daniel Penny. Come on, guys.
And yet, that's exactly what Jordan Neely did to those subway passengers. By the way, do you know this? All but 2 of the 11 witnesses who testified at trial said Mr. Neely's presence amounted to the scariest experience they'd ever had on a subway. Now, in many ways, this case's outcome does harken back to Bernie Goetz's acquittal in 1985. Because that came during another time when people in New York were feeling increasingly fed up with liberal do-gooders helping violent criminals get off. Most regular people, then and now, just want to return to safety and normalcy. But, of course, the usual racial arsonist reacted to the verdict today. Someone who never rides the subway, by the way, the Reverend Al Sharpton, he put out a statement saying, this verdict represents the blatant legalization of civilian vigilantism, sending a dangerous message that citizens can now take matters into their own hands, even if it leads to someone's death. But what all he doesn't get, what Al doesn't get, is that the people of New York have just had it. Maybe the Rev should just brush off, I guess, the crowds that Trump drew in New York and the Bronx, just ignoring that, Madison Square Garden. But he's brushing that off, but he should have paid more attention. Those people know that the danger to America isn't from Trump. It's not from people like Daniel Penny or overzealous cops. The danger to New Yorkers and the rest of the people in this country come from prosecutors who want to punish law-abiding Americans by making excuses for hardened criminals and also marauding migrants. And more of us see that the Black Lives Matter crowd, well, they are kind of what we said they were back in 2020, frauds.
We need some black vigilantes.
Yeah, that's BS.
People want to...
Yeah, this one, he was just spewing total BS. I ain't gonna cap. total BS. Of course, BLM co-founder of Greater New York. This isn't racial base or nah. This is basically common sense. Daniel should have let go of the grip as soon as two people came to support him. Common sense, okay? Just common sense. But he's a Marine veteran. I guess he was trained to off people. But this one right here, total BS, okay? Talking about black vigilante. He's angry, I get it, but maybe it should be families take care of your children. Maybe we're gonna start with that, okay? Families take care of your children, and then you can now say other stuff. Because people need to hold families accountable. You don't let your children wander around the street of New York. I don't care if they're 30 years old, 35 years old. Still, you brought them into this world. I'm not among those people that will say, well, my daughter is grown now. She has to go find her way. Yes, find your way. But the moment you feel like you don't know where you're going, you better call daddy. Daddy's going to be here, baby. Easy. That's my job because I brought her here. She never called me on the phone and say, Daddy, I want to come to the world. I want to come to Earth. No. I made her come here. So it's my responsibility to take care of her. Period. That's what I believe. Most people say, I'm simping or I'm beta or I ain't alpha. Keep your alpha, okay? I'm going to be there for my kids even though they are 45 years old. As long as I'm in this world and I got the resources, I will be there for my kid. That's it.
Jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud? How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
And who is he? Well, he sounds like a racist. And he's essentially threatening violence if he doesn't get his way. Nothing's changed from 4 years ago. These BLM radicals don't care about working people in these cities. They burned Minneapolis down, didn't care about that. And they're just trying to cash in on their anti-American hatred.
America has no moral code. America has no soul. Once we saw those non-white jurors, we knew that this case was over.
Then a special Christmas greeting.
These wonderful white people, I hope they celebrate their Christmas while the Neely family is praying and asking God for comfort. God.
Now we're back here. Racial politics, identity politics. We're back here. We're back here now that Trump is about to get into the office. We're back here. And I'm just hoping this doesn't continue moving forward. Because this is what they always do when it comes to Trump's term. It's always racial politics. Something happens, then they drag it on for 2 years, and then that's what the news media is going to keep saying, division, division, division. And this right here, most brown-skinned people are going to say, well, that's because Trump won. That's why this type of stuff happened. That's why I really never like this type of situation, because it's like there's so much to focus on. The border, the economy, foreign policies, all of these things that needs to be done. The deep state, everything has to be attended to. School choice. Like the dome he says he wants to build around the United States. There's so much to do. Now we're going to be worried about racial injustice. Pathetic.
Them and God America.
Yeah, you know what she said. She must have been a Jeremiah Wright acolyte. Well, it got ugly at times outside the courthouse, but not inside the pub where Penny's team celebrated.
It feels great, really does.
And so tell me, what's going on right now?
Yeah, we're just, it's 18 months of weight on everybody's shoulders. Most importantly, Danny's, walking around with the weight of this indictment on him, knowing that he's been falsely accused for doing the right thing.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Ladies and gentlemen, what, do you want us to keep going? I think we've come to the end of the live stream. I may be back here by like 1 a.m. Is anybody going to be up by 1 a.m.? Y'all don't sleep no way. Y'all don't sleep no way. All right, looks like I got one more juicy one for y'all. Let's do one more juicy one.
John, what stands out to you from all of these details? Obviously, he did have a manifesto on him, but they're being quiet on motive, quiet on how he got to Altoona, quiet on how long he was there, although it was days. But there is a lot of information in here. What stands out to you?
Well, so many things,
Yep.
but so much of what we just discussed. So let's talk about the things we didn't touch on, which is, George Bivens, the Lieutenant Colonel of the State Police, who we know well on this show because he's involved in all the major incidents there, talks about he traveled around the state for several days, presumably since his escape from New York City after the shooting last Wednesday, and has been traveling between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and places in between, which is not a short distance. So we have to ask ourselves a couple things. Is he beginning to effectuate a second stage of his plan where he's going to go on the run? Is he planning to figure out how can I now get involved in international travel with his foreign currency and his passport? Or as an individual who's carrying a manifesto that says, in the plural, that these parasites, must be killed and things
and
like
it was.
that.
These parasites must be killed. Parasites, plural.
He is armed with a weapon and ammunition and cash. So was he going to do another job, hit another person, perhaps another executive from the healthcare field or another field in his kind of anti-capitalist, anti-profiteer genre? And they dodged a bullet by finding him because of this publicity and that alert employee and customer.
Perhaps quite literally so. Kirk, when we hear that, 3D printed gun, ammunition, loaded Glock magazine, as well as 6 9mm full jacketed rounds found. When you think about the ammunition that he used prior, when you hear what John's saying and what we see in this, does it seem to you that perhaps he was preparing for another one?
I think so. I think John hit the nail on the head here. In particular, hearing about the cash, that's a fairly large amount of cash somebody can survive on for some time, and the Faraday bag. So it seems that he was not prepared to return to a particular location, but to move around. When I first heard about the weapon, I thought perhaps he retained the gun in order to elude capture and perhaps battle it out with the police.
Right, if police arrest him, he has it to shoot back.
Yes, but clearly he wasn't prepared to do so when these police officers approached him because he knew who they were, he could see them coming, and also he didn't have the gun on his person. So it does sound like he was preparing to take some form of possibly future action.
Mary Ellen, let me ask you, from what you are hearing now, what they found, and they talk about how he responded when that police officer, 6 months on the job, walked into that McDonald's early this morning and apprehended him. He pulled down his mask, he cooperated, then he gets visibly nervous when asked if he was in New York. What stands out to you?
Well, the one thing that I keep thinking about as I listen to John, and I agree with John about perhaps he was not finished. This is a very smart young man. He has 2 degrees, valedictorian of his high school class. I believe he knew he could never really return home. This was it for him. You can't return home and just assume a normal lifestyle after what he did in New York. So I do think that there was more on his agenda, that he wasn't done. It could have also included suicide at the end. But they caught him in midstream, and I think, I feel like that's really part of what he intended to do, is to continue on with the shootings. And I think that's, part of that mentality, part of that injustice collecting. When he uses terms like parasites, he wasn't just referring to the one person. And he spent at least a year in planning and thinking about this.
CNN has just obtained a photograph of the gun found on the suspect in the shooting of the CEO of United Healthcare. Take a look at this new photo obtained by CNN's John Miller. It's the weapon recovered by police earlier today when they detained 26-year-old Luigi Mangione. New York police officials say this is a ghost gun, meaning a handmade weapon that could have been 3D printed. It's not the only potential evidence police say they found in Mangione today after a McDonald's employee spotted him eating inside the restaurant and called 911. Police say they also found a multi-page document on the suspect, and a source says that document criticized the health insurance industry and included the lines, quote, "These parasites had it coming," and, quote, "I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done," unquote. A private memorial is being held today for United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, according to a source. Thompson was on his way to attend his company's annual investor conference when he was shot and murdered last week in New York. Let's go straight to CNN's Danny Freeman, who is live for us outside the McDonald's in Altoona, PA, where Mangione was taken into police custody just hours ago. Danny, do investigators know how he ended up in Altoona?
And Jake, that's still one of the biggest outstanding questions that we're hoping to learn. What brought 26-year-old Luigi Mangione specifically to Altoona and specifically to this McDonald's behind me? I'm going to show you just really...
Looks like we're having problems with our satellite.
Midtown Manhattan, where that crime...
Let's go back to Danny.
Jake?
Danny,
Okay,
you broke up for a second, Danny. Go ahead, start again. Oh, got another hit.
No, I was just going to say... Oh, maybe? Can you hear me?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, so Jake, I just want to describe to you where we are. So this is the McDonald's right here where Luigi Mangione was apprehended by police. Altoona police, they said that at 9:14 this morning, they received a call, like you noted, from an employee of this McDonald's, a female employee of this McDonald's, saying that someone saw who they believed to be someone who looked like the suspect in that United Healthcare CEO murder. Altoona police arrived here, right to this restaurant. They came inside, they spoke with this man, and sure enough, they ended up apprehending him. Now, they arrested him for charges unrelated to specifically the murder. They arrested him on gun charges, but on his person, notably, as you noted, they found that ghost gun. They found that suppressor. They found fake IDs. They also found a manifesto. Much of that, I believe, our colleague Bryn Gingras will get into in just a moment. But again, I just wanted to describe to you, ground station that's right in this immediate area, Jake. The Greyhound station is maybe about an hour's walk from this point, maybe about 10, 15 minutes of drive. There's a local bus station right here. The question still is, why this specific spot, and how did he get here at 9:14 this morning, where he was ultimately apprehended by local law enforcement officials, Jake?
All right, Danny Freeman in Altoona, thanks so much. Let's go to Bryn Gingras in New York. And Bryn, you have some new reporting about a fake ID that was also allegedly found on Mr. Mangione.
Yeah, and Jake, we know that NYPD investigators are there in Altoona. They are working on this investigation, obviously trying to talk to Mangione at this point. And that fake ID is key. Let's talk about why, because it is one of many that was found on Mangione, according to sources. And let's take a look at it for your viewers. But police believe this New Jersey fake ID may be the same one that was used to check into that Upper West Side hostel that police knew was used prior to the murder happening last Wednesday. So that would give it a direct connection to here to New York, to the possibly the crime. So that is a big piece of evidence that they found. Of course, as you just heard Danny mention, they also found that ghost gun, that picture that John Miller had, that they believe possibly could have been made with a 3D printer. They're going to run ballistics on that, but they know that it could fire 9mm bullets. And they also found a silencer, and that also was something very unique to this investigation. So investigators certainly are going to be looking at that handmade silencer or suppressor as well to kind of see if there's a connection there. But it doesn't end there. Of course, there is so much investigation that is still being done at this point. We know that Mangione was carrying some sort of document, according to our sources, that really railed against the healthcare industry. Didn't name any names, didn't say Brian Thompson at this point, of course, a victim in this case. But certainly it is something that they are now looking into exactly what sort of strife he might have had with the healthcare industry. He said, as you mentioned, Jake, some of the phrases in this sort of document, quote, "The parasites had it coming." That was one line, and another was, quote, "I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done." Jake, we know at this point investigators are still trying to make all the connections they possibly can, including trying to answer that question you asked Danny about how did he get to Altoona from New York City. But they're also, at this point, they're going to get him fingerprinted. You know that they are going to take his DNA once after this arrest, and hopefully they can make that connection as well to some of the evidence that was left behind very close to the crime scene, Jake.
At this McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, authorities believe they captured...
Was that the same McDonald's Trump fries up in here? I don't think so. This one was in Pennsylvania. Whoa. The McDonald's Trump made fries was in Pennsylvania too, right? Is it the same McDonald's? I don't think so.
The suspect in last week's New York City sidewalk shooting.
At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan.
Authorities say a McDonald's employee called the police while the suspect was eating in their restaurant around 9 a.m. this morning. Police say they found in his possession a gun and suppressor consistent with the weapon used, a fake New Jersey ID consistent with the ID used by the suspect, clothing including a mask consistent with those worn by the suspect, and
officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset.
Police identify the suspect as Luigi Nicholas Mangione, age 26, born and raised in Maryland, graduated from the University of Pennsylvania in 2020. Last known address in Honolulu, and no prior arrests in New York.
All these endeavors take a huge amount of courage.
Graduation video suggests Mangione was valedictorian at his all-boys high school in 2016. Authorities say the note found in his possession railed against the healthcare industry.
We don't think that there's any specific threats to other people mentioned in that document, but it does seem that he has some ill will toward corporate America.
It said, quote, "These parasites had it coming, and I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done," according to a police official who has seen the document. The note says he acted alone and that he was self-funded. And it asked why we have the most expensive health care in the world and yet are ranked 42nd in life expectancy. Authorities also investigating other writings of his online. As to the gun,
The gun appears to be a ghost gun, may have been made on a 3D printer, the capability of firing a 9mm round.
Police did not have the suspect's name until today and say tips from the public were crucial to finding evidence and making this arrest, along with old-fashioned detective work.
It really comes down to the video canvas that we did. We used every source of video that we could collect, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours from hundreds of sources.
Also helping authorities?
There are a number of mistakes that this shooter made, to include leaving forensic evidence behind. The DNA, all the videos, taking off his mask.
One hypothesis?
With his manifesto and everything he's done so far, the letters on the words on the bullets, right? The monopoly money. This guy, I think, he wanted to be captured eventually.
Police have arrested a suspect in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. 6 days now after that murder, outside of Hilton in Manhattan, police picked up 26-year-old Luigi Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania. This is after an employee at a McDonald's recognized him from photos and called the cops. Joining us now, Congressman John Joyce, a Republican who represents the Altoona area. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. Sorry it's under these conditions. Can you tell us if the NYPD has arrived on the scene yet, as far as you know?
Jake, just in the last 30 minutes, the FBI and the NYPD have arrived at the Altoona Police Department's headquarters. And I've been in contact with officials from the Altoona City. I have not talked to the Chief of Police, Joe Merrill, who is keenly involved in this investigation.
So what's curious, and you might not have an answer for it, is why he was in Altoona. It's a lovely place to go. You and I have common friends in Altoona, the Port family. But he's from apparently Maryland. He went to the University of Pennsylvania. Is there a connection he has that you know to Altoona at all?
No known connection, but there's great availability. We have rail, we have bus service, and we have a great interstate highway system that comes through Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Okay, so it's like a thoroughfare. It's pretty incredible. I don't know if you know who this McDonald's employee is. One of your constituents, it seems, identified him, and the only reason that this case has been cracked, assuming it has, is that this McDonald's employee in Altoona recognized the assailant from the photos that have been on TV.
Jake, this was a courageous employee, a restaurant employee at McDonald's on Plank Road in Altoona, Pennsylvania. And not only did she see something, not only did she say something, she did something. She alerted the Altoona Police Department, who responded quickly and detained this individual, this person that was suspect and highly suspect. But she was very courageous, asking him to remain there while the police arrived. And to be able to do that, I hope this will put an end to the ongoing investigation. I think that having someone in hand right now, having the FBI and the New York Police Department in Altoona, Pennsylvania, continuing that investigation will allow many people to rest at ease.
So what did she say to the suspect as far as, she approached him and said something?
I don't know what the content of that conversation was, but I know it was an employee at the McDonald's restaurant in Altoona, a courageous employee.
Yeah, no, it's a gutsy thing. You see somebody, I'm sure most people would be like, oh, I don't even know. What if I'm wrong? What if that isn't him? But, he really looks a lot like him. And she just called 911, I assume, and the police came?
And we have 66 police officers in the Altoona police force. My medical practice, I practiced medicine for 25 years before coming to Congress. My medical practice is just 2 blocks away from that McDonald's restaurant. It's in a place where I took my children when they were young, and I took my grandchildren as well recently.
So you're a physician, and since the shooting, we've heard a lot of, 2 things. One, understandable frustration with the health insurance industry, which my dad's a doctor also, and I know that that's something that a lot of doctors experience. And then 2, a real nihilistic and horrible, distasteful rejoicing in the murder of this health insurance executive. What's been your reaction to this?
First and foremost, I deplore any type of violence to this degree. This is not the way to solve the problem. But when I ran for Congress 6 years ago, the frustration of the constituents in South Central Pennsylvania was one of the reasons that I ran for Congress, to be able to address that, to be able to address access to care, that patients had the opportunity to receive the care, the medicines, and the therapies that they need to heal.
All right, Congressman John Joyce, Republican of Pennsylvania. Thanks so much. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you,
Appreciate it. It's the arrest of a suspect in the murder of the United Healthcare CEO. The NYPD says that 26-year-old Luigi Mangione was arrested on a gun charge this morning at McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Among the items found on Mangione was a 2-page document that officials say indicated he, quote, has some ill will towards corporate America, unquote. A police official who has seen the document said it rails against the health insurance industry and suggests that violence is the answer, and specifically contained the following lines, quote, these parasites had it coming, and, quote, I do apologize for any strife and trauma, but it had to be done, unquote. While we do not know whether the document specifically mentions United Healthcare, we do know the killing last Wednesday has unleashed a flurry of anecdotes of individuals denied insurance claims, some cases matters of life and death, perhaps also bottom line decisions that felt to the patients, the customers, compassionless.
Lift this knee. Can you move that ankle? Now I'll help you to the bathroom. I had to give her haircuts and showers. And until you've had to do that with your own mother, you can't know what it's like. But to United Healthcare, she was a number. She was a dollar amount. $90 billion in profits. And anyone on here who is saying, oh, all of you commenters have no compassion for him, you're right. We don't. He had no compassion for us.
Let's bring in CNN's Claire Duffy, and CNN's John Miller is still with us. And Claire, this has really exposed the extent to which so many Americans are frustrated with health insurance companies. And obviously, no, none of us support murder. None of us think that violence is the answer. But these are real struggles.
Yeah, Jake, it is interesting because normally when we see this kind of public display of violence, the response on social media is one of support and sympathy, but that has not been the case here. One of the examples that really stood out to me was this Facebook post from United Health expressing sadness over Thompson's death. It got tens of thousands of emoji reactions, and most of them are laughing emojis. I think what we're seeing is this sort of bubbling up of the pent-up anger and frustration that so many Americans feel over the healthcare and health insurance industries. And we've seen a lot of these stories, people sharing of, as you said, being denied health care claims. And that is one of the things that experts say is often the root of people's frustration with their health insurance. There was a study last year that found that a majority of Americans, 58%, experience some problem with their health insurance over the course of a year, often including claim denials and pre-authorization issues. And of that 58%, 15% of those people experienced actual negative implications for their health. These denials can cause anxiety. They can delay treatment. So I think what we're seeing is this general sense from many Americans who feel like these companies, although I'm sure the companies would sort of quibble with this depiction, but that these companies are prioritizing profit over the people that they're serving, Jake.
And John, this obviously theoretically goes to motive. Based on what you're learning about the document police say was found with Mangione, this two-page manifesto, how will investigators determine whether his feelings about health insurers were actually the factor?
Well, the letter certainly, as much as we know about it, seems to spell that out, talking about profiteering and the words that were on the bullets, which is deny, delay, depose, talking about the litigious nature of and the slow rolling of claims payments and so on. So it appears there. But I would also say, you know, having done a pretty good sweep of his social media activity, internet activity, and, you know, the places where we can see him interacting with others, this doesn't seem to be an out front theme. You know, you asked a couple of times before today, did police have his name? You know, how did police not have his name? And police did not have his name because he just wouldn't have been on that radar beyond this. This was a result of literally thousands of hours of reviewing video by hundreds of cops who pulled those tapes by going block by block, store by store, building by building, camera by camera, until they assembled, you know, all these hours and found that one moment when the mask was down. Before that, the moment in Starbucks. After that, the moment in the taxi, till they had enough images, till somebody, a woman in a McDonald's who worked there, said, I think that looks like the guy. That's the only reason they had his name, not because he was in the DNA database. He wasn't. Not because he had a criminal record and his prints would have popped when they took him from the phone, because he isn't. This guy was a ghost.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the live stream. You guys are the best. Before I leave, I just want to say this. Sometimes life deals you a shitty card, but you do the best you can. Okay? Do the best you can. Stay strong. Life is hard, but stay strong. Okay? Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and believe in God. Stay strong, people. These times are trying times. We're going to enjoy ourselves, have fun as much as we can, but also be man, be responsible for our responsibility. And yeah, I definitely will be back here for sure in like 4 hours. Whoever's here then will be here. Y'all can go get some sleep. I don't know, but I hardly get sleep these days because there's a lot going on in my life. But I'm thankful to God for the challenges. I'm thankful to God for everything that I'm going through, because at the end of the day, I know these are the cards that the universe is dealing with right now, that I'm dealing with the universe with right now, or however that goes. But there's no giving up here. There's no quitting here. It's all guts and grits. Okay, never give up. All guts and grits. Okay, keep going. That's it. I love you guys, man. Stay strong. And yes, be blessed, people. Be blessed. All right, double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, see you soon. And I am signing out. I love you guys.